What's up, everyone? We are live with GameFace, the flagship show for Sifted Games. Hope you guys are ready for a cool hour or two or three
at least
of the hottest game news of the week. It has been an odd week, Matt. Not a ton of huge stories, but just a metric ton of little ones.
Little like, what? He said where? He said who? You know, well, we all kind of wait, because it's like nothing came out. Like, we're waiting for Zelda and...
Zelda did... Well, the reviews came out.
Anyway. Reviews came out, but the actual game and the Zelda and Black Desert don't come out till Friday.
Yeah.
And then Division's next week.
Yeah.
But everyone's kind of taking a breath right now.
Yeah, it's trying to put together topics for the show today, and usually we try to find, when we put together topics for GameFace, we try to find big ones that are expansive and wide, something that Matt and I can really kind of generate good conversation over. And it was kind of tough putting them together, but I will say, this is probably going to be the biggest intro we've ever done for a GameFace, because we're going to touch on a lot of the little stories in the intro today. The first one we're going to talk about is Battlefield 5. Yeah. Rumors swirling. I honestly did not think the game was going to come out this year, but it is now, apparently. Yeah. It is coming out this year, one. The other thing, too, was there was a retail leak, which is quickly becoming like the way all new information is disseminated in this industry.
Yeah, don't tell Amazon in Europe anything, apparently.
Yeah, well, once again, they kind of broke embargo, screwed up, posted things before they were supposed to, and one of the descriptions for Battlefield 5 said that it takes place in World War I.
World War I tactical shooter.
Yeah. Were there tactics in World War I?
Well, one or two.
Yeah, dig a trench, lay in it.
Dig trench, run at artillery.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. How do you feel about that, Matt? There's that Kickstarter game. I can't remember what the name... Battalion something or others.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, there's a game that was on Kickstarter over the last couple weeks called Battalion something something, and it goes back to World War II. And, Call of Duty hasn't gone back to World War II in forever. And the Kickstarter exploded. Literally. It was like... I think they funded the whole project in like 3 days, and now they're at the point where they have stretch goals for a campaign, because initially it was just going to be a multiplayer shooter. So the demand is there, at least on a scale where you can support a Kickstarter at least. So there's a couple million people out there who want like a World War I, a retro-styled shooter, so to speak. How do you feel about that, Matt? Do you want to go back to...
I wouldn't mind going back to World War II. I don't know about World War I.
Yeah.
Like, that's... World War I's harder to build sort of drama around, both in terms of, kind of the tactics you're stuck with and sort of...
Isn't that Far Cry Primal? I'm kidding.
No. There's far less trench warfare in Far Cry Primal. I mean, I'd be
the weapons, like sticks and stones.
Yeah, like... a little bit. I'd be into like biplane combat or something like that. But I don't know. Like most of a World War I shooter would be like a quick time event game where you have to prevent yourself from getting trench foot or something. I mean, that's and like there's also like no real political like overarching, because the World War II's kind of got the good versus evil thing going on, where you're fighting the Nazis and like everyone can agree that the Nazis, whereas this is sort of like kind of the first modern, like after the Boer War, it's kind of the first modern like expression of like the endless kingdom wars in Europe that had gone on for hundreds of years, and so
it wasn't even called World War I when it happened.
The war to end all wars.
Right, exactly.
Oops.
And then only after they called World War II, did they, in hindsight, go back and call it World War I. Yeah. So,
like, they called World War I a world war. It was like, oh, this was a world war, but no one thought to like
call it that.
It's like, it's just like you didn't call the first Battle of Bull Run the first Battle of Bull Run until the second Battle of Bull Run happened. But I don't know. I guess they could make it interesting, especially if you're more talking about kind of the multiplayer, open, huge area Battlefield tradition. But like I feel like you're going to run into the same thing the Battlefront has, where it's just like there's not really just that much happening.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be a simplified thing, and you might run out of ideas. I mean, I guess you could have like shotgun. Trench warfare has shotguns and stuff, but like. Yeah. I just don't know. I mean, who knows if it's even true.
Well, at first I was like, my knee-jerk reaction was like, whoa, well, what can they do now with the technology that they have available that they couldn't do back when they made these games? But, Battlefield 1942 was on PC, and so the tech was actually kind of there already because the PC was so far advanced over consoles back then. So, Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss. I honestly don't know if I would be that excited. Obviously, you're going to lose traversal, the crazy traversal that's kind of come around over the last few years. It's going to be just running, crouching, crawling, that type of stuff. So
unless there's a lot of, like, you know, mantling over, like, trenches and I mean, if it's like a more cover-oriented take on Battlefield, maybe? I don't...
That would be really boring, I think.
Yeah, maybe. I just... like, I don't know where you even start with that. If you're trying to give a Battlefield experience, I mean, I guess you have to really work in the mixed unit tactics and bring in those horrible, like, old, you know, first wave tanks. And,
right.
And I mean, like, Jeeps didn't even exist yet. Like, what do you? Like, I don't even know what you're doing there. I mean, you know, like, I guess, like, you know, I mean, you can do some fun stuff with the biplanes and, like, maybe the biplanes, you know, I mean, gas, like, you know, gas warfare, like chemical warfare is a whole thing, but, like, that just seems annoying.
Yeah.
It just seems like grenade spam writ large.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'll
it
wait
could all
see.
be false, by the way.
Yeah,
this whole conversation could be a moot point. So,
yeah. But, like, a lot of those leaks aren't wrong. You know, but in this case, someone just might have missed an eye.
Yeah,
maybe it's World War II. It could just be World War II, and I wouldn't mind going back to World War II.
Yeah, I even if it were World War II, I wouldn't be that excited about it. To be honest with you, I mean, it was the war that every first-person shooter sort of used as its fodder for like 10 to 12 years. Like, I burned out on it.
Well, when you think about it, we still do. I mean, Star Wars is kind of World War II when you think about it. But you know, I feel like, you know, Battlefield hasn't really moved into the kind of the future war stuff and the traversal stuff that that Call of Duty or you know, or Titanfall has. So, like, if Battlefield wants to take it back to their, you know, their oldest and greatest moment, like, I'm kind of cool with that.
Yeah, I mean, it does separate itself a little bit. And well, I mean, to be honest with you, Battlefield 4 is still different from the modern first-person shooters, and it's not that old. So, yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, to be honest.
I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. Hopefully at E3 in a nice presentation and not just some executive guy just deciding to tell us.
Well, it won't be on the floor.
No. Wow.
All right, next we're going to talk about Street Fighter V. Matt, I think the game may be bombing.
I think the game's selling a lot more on digital.
It probably is, especially with fighting games, because it's something people just want to have on their console.
Right. Load it up, play a few rounds, go back to whatever you're playing. You don't have to put the disc in every time.
So
it's going. I mean, it's going well in terms of, like, you know, in terms of the health of the community. Like, you know, they've already got a record number of people signing up to be in the tournament at EVO.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly that side of things is going well. Is it going to sell the millions of copies that these games normally, you know, is it going
I thought it was going to.
And it still might. I mean, it's got a long way to go. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, look, this is one... They're not panicking at Capcom right now because they know this game is getting better already, and it's going to keep getting better. They also know that it's a game that has legs, and it's going to sell... Anytime someone... We mentioned this before. Anytime someone buys a console, if they like fighting games, they're going to buy this game. So it's not, like, crazy danger zone, but to put it all in context, like, it tanked on the PC, like, horribly. And then in the first week in Japan, it sold, like, 15,000 copies. Now, the cutoff, it'd only been on sale for like a couple days. So I assumed when we saw the second week sales, that's when you were going to see the huge rush for the game. And it sold better in the second week, or at least more, but after a week and a half, almost 2 weeks of sales, it's at around 50K in Japan. That is crazy, man.
Physical copies, oh my God. So I see, this is where...
It was outsold this week in its second, not even really full second week of sales, by Kamen Rider. Like, Kamen Rider, Common, Kamen, whatever, sold 80,000 copies in its first week, and Street Fighter V is at 50K.
To be fair, Kamen Rider is a much older franchise.
Oh, I mean, it's been around for forever. But still, it's Street Fighter in Japan, where fighting games still reign. Like, I'm shocked by this.
Well, I think mainly, I mean, I don't think it's selling what Capcom hoped it would at all. I mean, even if you factor in digital. But to me, this mainly points out, like, we need a way to figure out how much these things sell digitally.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't feel like we have anything approaching the full picture. I mean, if it sold like another 50,000 on digital, like, that's still horrifying. If it sold like 500,000 on digital, like, that's totally different.
Well, it's like with Tomb Raider. The PC version on Steam sold 3 times what the console version did for Xbox One in the first like couple days or week or whatever. 3 times what it sold.
Well, I mean, I know a lot of people that were kind of going back and forth, PS4, PC for Street Fighter V, ended up going PS4 because the PC was reportedly just not running smoothly enough at the beginning. And I think they're fixing that. But at the time of launch, you needed a really powerful PC to run that thing on Ultra. And while the PS4 isn't perfect, it was more reliable. So I don't know. I mean, my main reaction to hearing all the Street Fighter sales news is like, tell us what it sold digitally. Because like that's the only way we're getting a complete picture on this.
And that's what the MPD needs to do. Like the MPD needs to figure out how to track digital sales. Like they're there. The numbers are there. They can get them. And I mean, look, they charge tens of thousands of dollars a year to have access to their numbers. So to me, it's like, if you're going to ask that much money for your numbers need to be accurate. Because the bottom line is their numbers are not accurate.
No, it's becoming increasingly inaccurate as time goes on.
Yeah.
And it's beginning to really remind me of the Nielsen rating system.
Right. Yeah, I had a conversation with someone last week about this, about what it was like being on like a smaller cable network with Nielsen, and where if like one of your dedicated watchers like went on vacation, like your ratings would drop by like a third because they're only polling 5,000 people to figure out what TV people are watching.
Like if you calculated like the ratings of G4 for most of its lifetime, that was 3 Nielsen boxes. So like you said, if one of those people went on vacation, and it would happen, like someone would go on vacation for 2 weeks, and we'd see the ratings were 2/3 what they normally were, and we're like, oh, somebody went to the Bahamas.
And then the funny thing is that like the executives would be like breathing down your like your ratings dropped a third. It's like
our ratings went to Disneyland.
Billy went on vacation, bro. Like. We can figure out who he is. We'll buy him something so he doesn't go on vacation. It's pointless. So, I don't know. I mean, is this...
It's a system made for a world in which there were 3 networks.
Yeah, it really is.
And this is a system made for a world... NPD right now is a system made for a world where everybody bought discs.
Yeah.
So, like, how are we supposed to get accurate info? I mean, not even us. Like, we're just, like... 2 dudes talking about video games, where it's like, what if you're like Michael Pachter or somebody and you need to know that stuff for your job?
Or if you're just a big investor and you're trying to invest in games and you're looking for accurate data.
How can you make smart decisions if you don't have a full picture? I'm surprised they haven't been more aggressive about this.
It's just like we used to say with Nielsen, like somebody needs to come in and like change it, and then everyone would subscribe to that, but it doesn't seem to be happening.
No. Well, I think one of the problems with Nielsen is that the capability is there to track what every single person with cable watches. Like you can do that, but then every time they propose something like that, like privacy concerns pop up, as though like I'm super concerned about what reality show everybody knows I'm watching, right? And like it means like meanwhile, like everybody just constantly tweets about what they're watching anyway. So maybe you should follow Twitter, Nielsen. But
they also track. Nielsen does track DVR stuff now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if you watch DVR within a day of recording it, that counts for its premiere rating.
Yeah.
And if you watch it within a week, it counts for like something else. But like with the NPD, I don't think you have privacy concerns on that level. It seems like it should be an easier thing to solve, but I guess you have to actually go to the publishers and have them tell you what it sold.
Right.
And I guess they're not entirely willing to do that right now. And I wonder how much of that is tied in with whatever deals or relationships they have with brick and mortar retailers as well. Like you don't want to reveal to, if you have this big deal coming up with GameStop, it's like, yeah, we sell about the same amount digitally as we do physically, and that's just going to keep going up, and one day we're not going to need you. I'm sure there's a big political game.
Well, they've long not tracked Walmart sales, which, you'd assume Walmart is one of the biggest retailers of games in the United States.
No question.
If not the biggest, so they've got to change something. I mean, there's too much on the line on these numbers. I mean, there are investors who make decisions based upon this stuff. That could be like billions of dollars of look, if you come out and you say Activision, Call of Duty bombed, or it sold 30% less than last year's Call of Duty or whatever, which could happen this year with Ghost 2 coming, a lot of people are going to sell their Activision stock on that news. And I mean, look at Apple. Apple has lost like 20-some billion dollars of the company's value over the last like month. And that's just from the stock going from like 116 down to 100. I mean, when you have that many people that own stock, I mean, it adds up, the math. So something's got to change. They've got to do something with the MPDs. But I still don't think that the MPD is really the root problem with what's happening with Street Fighter. Like,
no.
I think this may be a case where, like, reviews worked. Like, literally, people listened to the reviews and were like, I'll wait till it's up to scratch.
I think you've got a much stronger word-of-mouth system happening with a game like Street Fighter, because most people are going to buy that game to play with their friends. And so, like, when usually, and certainly I've seen this happen before, it was like, every group has kind of the one friend who's super plugged into the game world, and they come out and they're like, oh, we're going to get Street Fighter, we're going to play Street Fighter, right? It's like, and even I've been this guy sometimes where it's like, well, it's not really there yet. They haven't put the story mode in, don't buy it yet. Like, hang on. Like, wait, and we'll play it when it's finished, or like we'll play it when they patch it, or you'll play it when someone comes out with a resolution fix for this thing, or what, for that's happened over various games. So I wonder how much of this is word of mouth saying like, just wait until later when they've sort of got this thing finished in June or whatever. Yeah. And you can just jump in and play a game as with all the features. Turning to coffee talk for a second there, with all the features all in place, like they should be. So I think word of mouth is hurting Street Fighter's sales, and probably rightly so.
Yeah, it deserves it.
Outside of the competitive scene, I think if you wander into the casual world, unless you really seriously only just want to play versus mode against your friends, you're probably gonna want to wait. And see what happens, and see if these updates that they're talking about in March and June really do come.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the next thing we want to talk about in our intro today. Couple big delays. One that strikes particularly close to my heart, Matt Kyle.
I think I called this one.
Mass Effect Andromeda has been delayed out of this year. Was that my number 2 pick in our fantasy draft, or number 3?
2 or 3.
Yeah, I think I may have just lost the league with a big fat 0.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Crazy part, too, is my whole strategy with this draft this year was to make sure I picked games that I knew were going to come out.
Well, yeah, that's why I was shocked you picked that one.
But I researched it before the draft, and every financial report, for the prior 4 quarters, EA was like, oh yeah, we need it in 2016. It's coming in 2016, and and they had actually had a financial report the day before, before the draft, and I was like, I'm golden, it's set in stone.
Something's wrong with that game. I don't know why it's taken 5 years to make the next Mass Effect, but something's up.
Well, it's 1080p now, and assets have to be all.
How many months do all the extra Ps take? Come on, something's up.
A month per P.
Something's up with that game. They haven't shown details. We haven't seen gameplay of it.
Well, we saw some people have left there to go work at other studios in the last couple months, so that's a little disconcerting. And then on the flip side of that, Titanfall 2 is coming this year.
Apparently so.
The whole thing was it was flipped. Titanfall was going to come early in the year, Mass Effect late this year, and now it's flipped.
Yeah.
Titanfall 2 is coming this year. Mass Effect actually will be coming out when all the other Mass Effects came out. It has always come out
Q1. Yeah.
Q1 of whatever year. But, yeah, that's pretty devastating for my fantasy team. A big 0 from one of my top picks.
It's a little disappointing for me, because if I'd known Titanfall was going to come out this year, I would have probably picked that.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have, though. That seemed like it would be a dicey pick to me.
Yeah?
People liked Titanfall.
The dicey pick is Battlefield.
Oh, yeah, that's a really...
Titanfall's made by Respawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a developer joke, people. Dice. Yeah. Dice makes Battlefield. Dicey pick. Come on. Eyeball. Gonna buy a steel trap full of mice.
So that sucks. There's what could conceivably be a great Q4 game pushed out for this year. Although I don't think there'll be any shortage of great Q4 games.
No, but then it's a little weird to me that you're releasing Battlefield and Titanfall in the same window there, which makes me wonder if that World War II thing, World War I thing, is accurate, because that means okay, so Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 5 have to be very, very different games.
It certainly lends credence to that story.
You want traversal and future shit? Like Titanfall 2,
Yeah. If you want an old school shooter with an old school aesthetic with new school tech, then here's Battlefield.
It's also interesting to see that they're kind of taking a Bethesda approach with Titanfall 2, if this is true, that what we're probably going to see for the first time at E3, and it's going to come out 6 months later. So,
which is pretty much almost exactly what we saw with Fallout. So, all right, let's move. Another delay we should talk about, and this is really making me nervous. Uncharted 4 was delayed by 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And Naughty Dog says, it's a manufacturing thing, which is total bullshit.
But didn't those guys just go back in for more motion capture?
Yeah, they did motion capture pickups a couple weeks ago, It came out this week that the entire story was scrapped and redone when Amy Hennig left. Mm-hmm. And...
which had been hinted at before.
Well, they said that obviously when she was forced out or whatever happened there, I'm not going to pretend to know what happened with that, but they were basically, said, well, we're going to rework some stuff because they said they weren't completely happy with the way it was going. But then, like yesterday, I think it was, they said, no, we scrapped the whole frickin' thing and started over.
Well, there were comments from Alan Tudyk, who had been Wash from Firefly, who had been involved in the Hennig version of the game, and then him and another guy whose name I can't remember. Like they basically, like when Hennig left, they're like, okay, we're gonna rework some stuff, and they came back with like a new story, and basically like Tudyk and the other guy, a couple people were just like, yeah, we don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah,
and they walked away from it.
Yeah,
and he was not complimentary toward Naughty Dog at all. Like
I remember that.
It was like a little surprising to me that someone would be so like the comment was something like. It's something like, oh, because I made some friends during, while we were working on it, and then he very quickly adds, I mean, not Naughty Dog friend. Like,
yeah,
it was just like, whoa, like easy, bro. It's like, just,
well, here's the thing: they say, oh, it's a manufacturing issue. Well, look, if you were going to hit the delayed date before this one, you still have to manufacture the disc. So
right.
No, it's not a manufacturing thing. It's like you needed 2 more weeks to finish the game, like. It's really weird for Naughty Dog to have announced what they said at the time were solid release dates like 2 or 3 different times and not be able to hit those
dates. It's unusual
dates.
For them, for sure.
For most developers and publishers, it's very unusual. Like, usually a delay, like the first one, was like, it was like 4 months or whatever,
right.
5 months. That's
usually
kind
of expected.
That's usually how delays work. It's like, if you need a delay, it's not for a couple weeks, like, it's usually for a few months. And then the second delay was a month, I think it was. And now we have this one, which is 2 weeks. So it's not exactly inspiring confidence for me in the game.
I mean, it might just be multiplayer related.
It could be. It could be a server issue. Who knows? Like, it could be a bazillion different things. The bottom line is they didn't get the game done when they were supposed to after delaying it a couple times before that.
You think this is the last delay?
It's got to be. Yeah, I mean, to only delay it 2 weeks.
Yeah, but what if they're being overly optimistic? This could be another E3 release. Last of Us came out the week of E3.
I don't think so. I think they'll hit it this time. Or they wouldn't have just made it 2 weeks. They'd have just been like, you know what, screw it. Like, we're going to tack a couple months onto it just to make sure it's all good. There's financial stuff involved here. Mm-hmm. Sony has to hit numbers for their quarter. And, look, maybe with that in mind, it's
June
possible.
Is still in the quarter.
It is. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. It's disconcerting. I mean, we've never seen Naughty Dog really do something like this before, for one. Yeah.
I mean, they've had stuff delayed pretty heavily, but not like this sudden, like last minute, like, whoa, hang on, just give us 14 days, we'll give you the world. It's
buffer zone. Yeah,
that's weird.
So we'll see. On a side note, open beta for multiplayer this weekend for Uncharted. Everybody can play. They did the closed one for the people who had purchased the Nathan Drake collection. Mm-hmm. That was a couple months ago. Now there's an open one. Everyone's going to be able to play this weekend. Add me on PlayStation Network. I'm Dinfire. We'll get together and throw down in Uncharted. I've not been a big fan of Uncharted's multiplayer in the past.
No, I find multiplayer in that series kind of extraneous.
Yeah, I play...
Not what I wanted.
Yeah, I play it a few days. I'll play it for review, and after the review's done, I'll play it for a couple days after that, and usually that's when I put the bow on it and move on. So,
I forget that they have multiplayer, frankly.
Here's a question for you. Would you rather they ditch the multiplayer and have a bigger campaign?
Not really. I think the campaigns are a good length for the most part.
Yeah, because they wear thin by the end. Yeah. Like, by the time I get to the end of one of those campaigns, I'm like... Not another room with like 80 guys pouring into it.
Like I'm not in the like, oh, stop wasting single player resources on your multi, because that's not how it works anyway. Yeah. But like I don't want like, I wish they put all that time into making the single player campaign bigger and longer. It's like, no, I don't need to collect 40 more gold token items hidden under trees and like it's fine the way it is. I just don't care about the multiplayer.
Yeah, I feel like the length of that campaign is pretty much perfect for.
Same with Last of Us. I don't care about the multiplayer in Last of Us. Yeah. Like I just don't. That's not a type.
A lot of people do though.
Yeah, I'm into the Naughty Dog stuff for the story and the environment and the characters and kind of the experience.
The
and
tech.
I just don't. Yeah, I just don't.
I mean, honestly, if somebody asked me what is the biggest draw for me for Naughty Dog games, it's the tech. Mm-hmm. Undoubtedly,
for me, it's always
tech.
been the characters and the narrative. But that was when Amy Hennig ran the place.
Yeah, that would be second for me. Would be right behind. But honestly, like I look at their games as like the ultimate tech demo. What is this kit of hardware capable of? Show me, Naughty Dog. And
show me, and no one will ever achieve anything close to that.
No one else,
beyond
you. Until we get to play your next game.
I mean, the Order wasn't bad in that regard in terms of like, wow, look what the hardware can do if you really, if you push hard and dig into it.
And letterbox everything.
Yeah. And use the same boss fight 3 times.
Yeah.
But,
so, I don't know. We'll see. At least we'll get a good taste of it this weekend. Matt, will you be playing?
Uncharted?
Yeah. This weekend?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't care about the multiplayer. I just don't.
I'll be there if you want someone to play.
I had the Nathan Drake collection. I didn't play the last one either. That's not what I'm here for.
All right. Move on to the last topic of our extended intro for today's episode. Vive sales.
15K in 10 minutes.
15K in 10 minutes.
Do that 100 more times and you almost have a platform someone would make a game for.
Yeah. I mean, look, they haven't given any other...
No more stats off that? It's just like 15,000 rich boys like popped in
I
10
think they
minutes
said that was their launch allotment? That's what they're saying. They're like, we sold out our launch allotment in 10 minutes, and that was 15K units.
Just for comparison's sake, folks, the Sega Saturn sold 200,000 units in the first day.
And we know how that went.
We know how that turned out. There is a long haul to go on that thing if it's going to be a viable. I mean, Valve might just force it to be viable for a while, but I don't know how long you can sustain that.
First of all, I don't believe that 15,000 units was their whole launch allocation.
That's shockingly small.
That's not even enough for evangelists to go out and evangelize your product.
I wouldn't think so, no.
You need like 100K at least, man, to really get enough units out there.
I would say at least like 50K. I mean, because like you can sell 15,000 of anything high tech like that, like off the bat. If it's hyped enough and if it's not some crazy amount of money, like you can 15K is a pretty low target.
It's really low. That's what I'm saying. Like when you get that launch allotment put together, and look, when you decide your launch day, one of the factors that goes into it is how many units will we have? Because what you need to do is be strategic about, okay, we have X amount of units. What chances do we have with that many units of a lot of our potential consumers being exposed to it? Because that's what you want. You want people like you or I to buy it, and then all our gamer friends or even non-gamer friends to come over and hang out and see it. And for me, I mean, even just in America, I feel like you need at least 100,000 units out there for you to have the opportunity for people to try this thing with their friends and potentially be evangelized so that they then buy that system. 15 grand isn't squat, man.
No. I mean, like 15K, I mean, that's like a highly limited Ferrari.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Which, like, we live in
LA
and you never see them.
And I've never seen one. So, like, ever.
So the odds of knowing someone who has a Vive, I don't know anyone who ordered one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are some people on Sifted that have bought them, but I think that they're probably rich. But,
I can afford a Vive.
Yeah.
I just don't, I don't like to throw money away. And so I'm going to sit and wait and see if this becomes a viable platform. Yeah. And I don't think I'm the only one.
You're definitely not the only one. Yeah.
And then, like, that's not even including, there's a lot of people who, like, maybe they like a Vive, but there's no way in hell they can spend $800 on it.
Yeah.
So I think this is an uphill battle for all the VR, head-mounted displays, but Vive in particular. Especially because it requires like drilling and shit.
Yeah,
it's a commitment to this.
Well, you can put the sensors on like light stands or whatever.
Yeah, but it's not really the recommended way.
Yeah. I mean, if you want it to work the way it's really supposed to, you need to mount it on your ceiling, basically. Yeah. Above head level is what they're saying it has to be at least. So,
which makes sense.
So I would say, man, VR is shaping up to be the rich boy's toy. I mean, I've said it before on the show, but as time goes on, it just becomes more and more apparent that it's going to be this elitist thing that rich people have and most rank and file gamers don't, which just again leads me to think that PlayStation VR might be the ticket.
Might be. And again, that's how all this stuff starts. You know, like at a certain point, DVD players were just rich boys' toys, and eventually they became, the PS2. There's Sony again. The PS2 made it everyone's.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what it takes. It takes, maybe not even the best hardware. Although every once in a while, look, the PS3 is still one of the best Blu-ray players on the market, even all these years later.
For sure.
But like, eventually you're going to get there. And like I said, I think kind of the Dave & Buster's style VR center, like kind of game center places are going to be where most people experience VR for the first time. And if I were, Oculus and Vive, I'd be working hard to getting my stuff in those.
I'd be building like VR rooms at Dave & Buster's, all at my expense.
Yeah.
Be like, look, you make all the money off of this. We just want to plant these in all your locations so people can experience it and then want to buy them.
Get it on people's faces and make them want that at home. Yeah. That's all you got to do. I mean, it's not all. I mean, all you got to do. It's a huge order.
That's a lot.
A huge task.
Yeah.
But like that is the goal, I would think, right now, is to make people understand and experience what they are missing.
Yeah. Which at this point may not be a whole lot. There are a lot of great games coming for VR right now.
Like I said, we might really be looking at kind of the Atari 2600 ColecoVision and Intellivision equivalents. Like the explosion might be many, many years from now.
Yeah.
Because it took the advent of 3D, it took the advent of cheaper hardware that could emulate what you saw in the arcade effectively at home to really make it explode.
Yeah, you're right.
So, and there's going to be something, we need, the VR needs its Super Mario Brothers. It needs its Mario 64. It needs its Ocarina of Time to kind of, codify the language of how this new form of gaming is going to work, because that takes time and innovation and genius.
Yep.
And it'll come, but who knows when.
All right, we got to move on. We have 6 big topics to get to. I think we just spent about a half an hour just doing the intro of the show. So,
well, we like to hear ourselves talk, so
it's like I said, there was lots of small topics we wanted to get to, but right now, let's get to the big 6. So, Matt, this week, something happened in the industry that I have personally been talking about a long time in podcasts, shows that I've been on.
We talked about it last week.
Kind of, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. So, Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, they had a spring showcase event up in the Bay Area, and afterwards people were able to interview him. But during his presentation, he kind of mentioned that, we may be able to just upgrade the Xbox One. Mm-hmm. And instead of releasing another console, just boost the power of the unit everybody has right now.
It's like a thing. It's like a thing I've heard. It's like what is that word? That's PC. That's what that is. It's a PC.
It really is.
Or a Sega Genesis.
Yeah. Or as you're seeing right now, an N64 with the DD. Or the GameCube with the Game Boy player.
Or the N64. Actually, the thing that first came to mind was actually the N64 with the expansion pack.
The RAM expansion, yep. So here's my idea for this. First of all, so here's the thing. I went and watched some disassembly videos of Xbox One as research for this episode. And there's no room inside that box at all. It is completely jam-packed. I don't know if you've ever seen the fan on the inside of that thing.
Oh, they were taking no chances with the red light of doom on this one.
The fan on the inside of the Xbox One is that big.
It's huge.
It is huge.
They were not fucking around with the heat problem again.
The inside of that box is completely stuffed with stuff. There is no way. First of all, it's not built to be modular. No. There's no place to snap anything into it. Basically what we're looking at here is something connected via USB 3. I don't even know how they would do it, Matt.
I don't know.
I
think they would release whatever, instead of whatever we would consider the slim release of it, it would be the expansion version.
The expandable version.
Expandable version of the Xbox One. That would be and so we'd have to get another one.
Which would really, really suck.
Yeah. Well, I think in the end what it would be is when they finally decide to bring out the big expansion to kind of take it to the next level, if I'm going to use the Genesis terminology still, there would probably be a pack that is a whole new console that includes the upgrade that we would buy because we already have an Xbox One.
Yeah.
But you're still splitting the user base.
So my idea is to make this work, and I don't know if it would work with this generation, but if they decided to do this for next generation, is create a console with modules that you snap into it. So when you buy the base model, when it first comes out, you buy the launch unit or whatever, you get like whatever processor, RAM, and whatever else they want to put into it. But they're like these plastic pieces that snap together to create the console. And then, a couple years later, they put out a new module. And maybe they sell it in like 20 different colors or whatever. But it's got more RAM in it, a new processor in it. And you just snap out the old unit that has the old processor and RAM in it, and you take the new one and just snap it right into that port. And it gives you the ability to kind of customize the colors so everyone can have different colored like parts of their consoles. I think it would be a brilliant idea. And it's a way to like consoleize the PC. So the modules fit the form factor of the machine.
Just like take the PC upgrade idea and make it idiot proof.
Right. So you just snap it in. It just snaps right into on a port, just like with the GameCube. It had an EXT port on the bottom that you conceivably could have done something like this with. Unfortunately, it only worked for the Game Boy player, but I think that's the way that you could do it. And you could sell it as like, so you sell the launch unit, and then you could call like V1 upgrade, V2 upgrade, and it just keeps going up. And maybe you color code them, so when you see someone's console, you're like, oh man, you got the V3, shit. Like,
you get the pink one.
I only got the V2, right? So I think there's a way to do it to make it so it's not that confusing for consumers. It would also be kind of cool. There would also be like elite status to it, which always gets people to buy stuff. Like, I think it could work. Now the question is, do you have a problem with this, Matt? Would you be cool if they did this?
I think I would probably ignore it.
Yeah?
Because like
you would never buy an upgrade for your console?
Well, no, I don't know if I'd buy that console. Because like his statement on that basically kind of reminded me of when I said last week that like, increasingly I'm wondering why I have an Xbox One when I have a game-capable PC.
Right.
And if they went that way with it, that would just be that nail in that coffin for me. It's just like, well, I don't need an Xbox anymore.
Really?
Not unless they had something really compelling for me to play only on the Xbox. And so far in the last year, the only two things that were that, I mean, I don't know if I call it really compelling, but the two things I wanted to play that were exclusive were Halo 5 and Rare Replay. And, now, Quantum Break would have made it into that, but now you can play Quantum Break on PC and Gears of War. And, it's like, if they're moving away from the idea that these games are going to be only on Xbox...
Which they are already, I mean...
Which they definitely are.
Yeah.
Like, I question, they're going to have to show me a real reason for me to have an Xbox in the house next to my gaming PC. Because at least the PlayStation, I know there's Uncharted and there's all these other things that, Nintendo has all their own stuff. But, like, Xbox is increasingly becoming redundant to a PC to me.
I'd agree. Yeah, my Xbox One, it's like...
I think what you're saying is a cool idea. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's before a lot of people. I think it would be a successful idea. I think there's a lot of people out there.
Let's just forget about Microsoft and the whole how the lines are blurring between Xbox One and PC now. What if Sony did this? Like, would you be behind it?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it would solve a lot of problems with the whole because I think both consoles released too early.
Because here's the thing: a lot of people
they could use some upgrades.
The issues that we've had in the past, and look, you guys are looking at like 64DD footage right now, and the N64 expansion pack. The problem with those is that it splits your user base a lot of times. So you have like the haves and the have-nots. It's kind of happening with the 3DS right now, like where you have like the new 3DS XL, where there's a handful of games that can only play on the new model.
Or like 2.
Right. Yeah. Maybe not even a handful. Not even 5.
I think it's just Xenoblade and like 1 or 2 other. I mean, they haven't done that at all.
There's not many. So that's the fear, right? Is that you're splitting your user base, and I saw some comments on Sifted about that too, but. You're not, though, because you're in that PC model where no matter which version of the console you have, even if you have the launch edition...
You can still run the game.
You can still run the game. It doesn't look as good as the V2 version that maybe I had, but it still plays, and it becomes a PC where you can adjust, and we're starting to see this with games now.
You basically choose your experience.
Right, where you can choose the resolution you display it at, your frame rate. I mean, look, you don't have to be a genius to know how to use this stuff.
And I think you are hitting the point where everybody's dealt with these games long enough that I think your average consumer is ready for that kind of idea.
Well, look, the core people already are upgrading their hard drives.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, there's official videos from Sony and Microsoft that show you how to do it. So I think it's headed that way already. Why not just go all the way?
Well, it makes more sense than being locked into, a snapshot of what hardware looks like on that affordable level 2 years before you even launch the system. Like it solves the problem of the consoles being so hopelessly behind the PCs, and it would partially solve the problem of PC games having to kind of scale it back to make sure they still run on a console.
Here's the other angle too: is because Microsoft or Sony would buy so many of these parts, you could conceivably get PC performance for a much lower price because
just
they
for
could
scale of production, yeah.
Because they could work out deals with these manufacturers so that they end up getting like GTX 980 quality card for a much lower price than what you would pay for a GTX 980.
Especially if they get these various manufacturers to be able to plaster their logo all over them,
right?
And like just have the logo displayed on the outside of your box once you've installed it.
I mean, look, consoles have already done that.
Yeah.
The GameCube had ATI's logo on it, so that's nothing new.
Dreamcast was powered by Windows CE.
Yeah, exactly. And it had like the Windows CE thing on it. And I think that's the other thing too that the industry is getting away from. It's getting away from having proprietary GPUs and CPUs. Now, we'll talk about the NX here in the next topic. Nintendo has traditionally still kind of like done, had custom processors and things like that in its machines. Sony and Microsoft are like, screw that. Like, we
really moved away from it.
Well, Sony learned a really hard lesson with the cell processor, a really hard lesson.
That was just the kick in the dick and the balls they needed to kind of move away from that weird. I mean, partly it was just Kutaragi being strange, but
But that's the other angle of this, too, is that it makes porting games much easier between platforms. If everyone's using x86 or whatever...
that's the key. It's like you just need all... that's the key is, I think, what all three manufacturers should want, is like you want your system to be a viable only console option.
Yeah.
Like if I buy your console, I shouldn't be missing out on any multi-platform stuff. That's been Nintendo's biggest problem.
It really has, yeah.
And right now it's becoming a problem for Xbox because people are defaulting to the PlayStation 4 version of things so often.
Yep.
And I can see why, because like I played the beta of The Division on Xbox One and on PlayStation 4 because for some reason the Xbox One beta was available first when I went. So I played that for a while, and then I went and switched to play the PlayStation 4 version after that, down like a day or two later. And I'm telling you, man, night and day.
Really?
Like the PS4 version was so much sharper, and like it was like because I thought it was a little muddy on the Xbox One. I'm like, oh, it's hard to see, like read some stuff, and and then I played it on the PS4. Just
wow.
I mean, I don't know if it's like a resolution change or I didn't Digital Foundry it, side by side or anything. But like playing the PS4 version was like, it was like another world. It was like, wow, this is much sharper and much brighter. Like the lighting was better. I mean, it was just a better experience overall. And I was like, I just look, man, I was the biggest 360 advocate you could imagine last generation. But as any I think really true gamer will say. I go where the experience is the best. I don't care what logo's on the box.
I don't care either.
Now PS4 is for the consoles, PS4 is where it's at for me.
Yeah. And look, Sony's kind of doing a little bit of this because, PlayStation VR comes with that extra little mini console that comes with it. So you have like this other little
booster box kind of thing.
I mean, that's kind of upgrading it. I mean, it's giving PlayStation 4 capabilities that it doesn't have on its own. So Sony's already kind of stepping in that direction a little bit, and I wouldn't even be surprised if the slim version of the PlayStation 4 ends up having that extra little mini console built into it so that PlayStation VR just works right out of the box with the PlayStation 4. So I think we're already seeing steps towards it. A lot of people were shocked by the stuff that Phil Spencer said. I wasn't really shocked at all, and in all honesty, it's probably the smartest thing for Microsoft to do. At first when I heard it, I was like, oh, that makes sense of why Xbox One is so generic looking, and it's just basically a rectangle. Because if you're creating something that needs to stand the test of time, making it as simple as possible is almost always the right decision. And so I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, maybe that explains the form factor. Then I went and watched videos of somebody taking apart an Xbox One. I was like, nope, that wasn't it at all.
The form factor was because of a giant cooling system and the desire for it to look like a DVR.
I mean, it really does just look like a cable box.
Yeah, because
or
that's
an
what
old
it was supposed to be.
VCR.
That's what they designed it. It was them jumping. I think they handed that off to a team that was not video game centric. They were trying to make the long-awaited set-top box.
Yeah.
And they made a TV box that didn't quite do what they... I mean, putting the slower RAM in there was a bad call.
It really was a bad call. That was the worst place they could have cut corners on that machine. So then there's the whole connected.
And it would be great if I could take that RAM out and put faster RAM in it.
Yeah.
Like that would solve
even if it was
some problems.
even if I had to buy it from Microsoft and it was this officially licensed thing that just snapped right into the back of the console.
The only thing I would worry about in terms of like that modular idea is we all saw what Microsoft was charging for like the Xbox 360 hard drives.
Yeah.
Which was like literally like hundreds of % more than you could buy it for like a normal computer.
Yeah.
So as long as there's not that proprietary like massive markup crazy thing going on, like I'd be behind. But if you're gonna sit there and like try to sell me a 250 gigabyte hard drive for $150, like forget it. Like that's not gonna fly.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to think too if they would open it up so third parties could create their stuff. I mean, can they stop them from doing it? I mean, I remember seeing a third party Game Boy player, if I remember correctly. I don't think there was ever one.
I don't think so. Well, I think the other thing is like because these things are inevitably going to be online, you can always just find out what someone has plugged. It's like, oh, you're not using Microsoft, approved RAM. We're shutting you down.
Yeah. And then if you start looking farther on down the road, and you're like, okay, well, you're a studio, and you're like, I want to build a game that can't run on the base configuration of Xbox 2 or whatever it is. That gets a little dicey.
Yeah, but then you end up in like Donkey Kong 64 situation where the game comes with the upgrade you need to run it properly.
Yeah, but upgrades
then that's still going to boost.
These upgrades don't cost $20. These upgrades are going to cost more than that if you're talking about a new GPU and more RAM and stuff like that. So,
well, in that case, I'd say the developer is just wandering outside of the parameters of the hardware they're working on.
And look, I mean, the base model for a console like this probably is still going to last you the good 5 to 7 years, and then probably at that 7-year mark, you finally start putting out games that just simply won't run at all on that base configuration, and then kind of semi-force people to upgrade. Because, I mean, look...
you kind of create a next-gen sort of in a really fuzzy way in that regard.
I mean, look, these platform holders are not making money off hardware. I mean, the profit margins are slim or they're losing money.
Yeah.
So, they don't care if they don't create another console. They just want to make sure that people keep buying software. So they need to keep creating more unique, compelling experiences so people keep buying the software. And if, every 5 or 7 years you release this new module that snaps into your console and creates the Xbox 3 or whatever, I think a lot of people will be okay with that.
Yeah, well, also, I don't think the Donkey Kong 64 model is all that prohibitive in this sense because on one hand, they drove the price up a little bit for that, but it still did include this thing that was like, gave you much better performance in that regard.
Perfect Dark was another game.
Perfect Dark took it, Rogue Squadron, the whole thing. But but the key to it in your model is it's not, because the thing about the N64 expansion pack was it supported certain games, but your model, it would make all your games better.
Right, yeah.
So, you're paying maybe an extra $25 for this game that includes this upgrade, but everything you have and everything you're going to buy in the future is going to be better for it.
And even make sure old games look better. Yeah.
I think that's a selling point that you could, maneuver around the higher cost.
Yep. Put out those officially created comparison videos and watch the money roll in.
By then, maybe we'll be able to put animated GIFs on special packaging types, and you just little videos will run on the packaging.
Yeah. Look, if that's the future, I'm totally cool with it. I think it would be a great idea. I think it would inspire confidence in people buying multiple consoles as well instead of just getting one and sticking with it. I think it would be good for the industry as a whole. I don't know how else they would do it, Matt, to be honest with you. I mean, are they really going to ask you to take your console apart and go and buy a RAM stick at Fry's and then come back and make sure you don't get your staticky hands on it and you've got a static guard while you do it and a rubber mat that you're
They might. They are Microsoft.
That's insane, though.
But in that case, it just means that you're waiting for an Apple to come along and make it work.
It needs to be idiot-proof.
Yeah, you need the design to be there. The tech is there already. We know that.
Yeah.
But I just put together a PC a year ago, and I wouldn't wish that on someone who just wanted to play Halo.
And it's a lot easier than it used to be.
Oh, it is.
I mean, the motherboards now are kind of like that. Everything just kind of snaps together.
There's only a couple things I had to look up, but it's a lot less arcane than everything used to have no label on it. Right. It used to be you just have to know what that plug is.
Yeah.
Now everything's labeled. But I still wouldn't throw it at someone who just wants to play Halo 6.
Oh, I wouldn't let my mom try to build a PC.
No.
I'll put it to you that way. But yeah, it's become a lot easier than it used to be, for sure. Like, everything's just it does kind of just snap together now when you build a PC. Everything's kind of universal, and
But we're talking about, like, Play School's my first PC kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it's idiot-proof. Like, either you get it in right, or it doesn't go in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the future's going to be interesting, man, like, with video games. Like, between this and the whole digital thing and brick and mortar kind of going away, and it's an awesome time to be in games, man, just to see all this progression. Because, I mean, if we think about it, it really was stuck in the same model for the whole time.
Long time.
I mean, since the beginning, it has been the same as
every attempt to break out of that, which was usually pioneered by Sega, failed miserably.
Usually it did, yeah.
Because, and I think that's the stigma that will be hardest to get over in terms of trying to implement this new model, which is why I think something like your idea, done with just, design sensibilities that really make it feel like something cool and new and easy and functional, is important. Because when you say that line, the only thing a lot of people think of is the 32X.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I even saw on Sifted one of the images for one of the stories about this was an Xbox One with a 32X photoshopped in the middle of it. And it's just like, it's not what you want people to think of when they think of your product.
Well, when we put together B-roll for this segment, we got a commercial of the 32X in there.
Oh, so. Look at the DD drives. That's adorable.
Well, those are the discs, actually, the rewritable discs. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. It's because, like, remember when things were on discs?
Oh yeah, and carts,
floppy disks.
No, this is like a cart and a floppy disk all in one system, and a crappy 2-button mouse. Look at that. It's insane, dude.
That is gross.
Never came out in the States, only in Japan as RandNet. You couldn't even buy them in the stores. You had to subscribe to this weird service to get it. Yeah. So,
and originally Ocarina of Time was going to be like the launch thing for that.
Well, yeah, there was like...
Can you imagine having to buy that to play Zelda?
Well, there was like Zelda Gaiden. They created like that remix of Ocarina of Time that was going to release.
That's where that comes from.
Yeah. So, anyway, we're getting off on a tangent here. I'm excited for the future. If this is what the future brings, I'd be totally cool with it, totally fine with it. I would love to be able to buy one piece of hardware and know it was going to last me for 10 or 15 years or a lot longer. I mean, the only reason you would need to replace it is if like there's some crazy new technology for motherboards or something that comes along. Like, otherwise,
which is possible. But then, like, even then,
when it gets to USB 9 or whatever,
But even then, you might be able to find a way to use adapters for that. I mean, it's an interesting prospect, and it really sort of would take the wind out of the System Wars issue, because like, okay, you pick it would become more of an NVIDIA AMD thing, I guess. Because I would guess that one company, Sony and Microsoft, one would get NVIDIA, one would get AMD.
That, or there's a bidding war too between AMD and NVIDIA to deliver the GPU for these at the lowest price possible. When you get that bidding war going, the price comes down. It's good for us ultimately as consumers. So.
Yeah, but then somebody's stuck with AMD drivers.
Yeah, AMD's coming back. I have a feeling. I think that they're
again.
They're not giving up. Yeah,
I can't wait to see how they blow their lead again this time.
Well, they're doing good in processors, but in GPUs, they're getting their butts kicked. But I think they'll come back in GPU as well. There's too many smart people.
They always
there.
do.
Yeah.
But then they do something incredibly stupid, and NVIDIA takes it back.
Yeah, which is where we're at right now, basically.
So waiting for the cycle to repeat itself.
Yep, we'll see.
War never changes. All
right, let's move on to the next topic. Another episode of GameFace, another Nintendo NX rumors topic. They just keep coming. They're down like the rain.
Please show this system so we can stop talking about rumory things.
Yeah, that would be great. So here's the next set of rumors. This one...
Isn't there a Direct tomorrow?
There is a Nintendo Direct tomorrow. Actually, if you're watching this on Sifted, it's today at like 5 p.m., I think it is.
Yeah.
Is that Eastern or Pacific?
I think it's Eastern.
Yeah. Anyway, it'll be on Sifted. If you're watching this right now, just go to the homepage. It'll be there. You can watch it.
I hope they announce Super Nintendo Virtual Console for the 3DS.
That's the rumor that's swirling around right now.
Because it was just this past weekend, I was like, I'm going to get some Super Nintendo games on my 3DS. Now that I'm on the road, I'm like, where are the Super Nintendo? There aren't any Super Nintendo games. Why can't I play Link to the Past on my 3DS?
Yeah, it really is silly.
Why?
It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
So anyway, the rumors are about NX and not about the 3DS per se, although that probably is coming in the Direct tomorrow, along with a a preview of Nintendo's games leading up to summer. Hopefully we see a vastly improved Star Fox Zero. At least that's my hope.
Uh-huh.
All right, so let's get to these NX rumors. This is another set of rumors where the person who is breaking the information has been on the money many times before on a variety of different topics. So this person seemingly does have a source somewhere who is feeding him information on a variety of different platforms. It's not just Nintendo as well. He's broken stories about a number of other platforms. So we'll just go right down the list here. The first one, the NX has power equal to Xbox One. Matt, is that good enough? I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so. I mean,
for a console that's coming out...
For a console that, like, everybody...
3 years later.
3 years later, and also, like, the main thing people complain about with the Xbox One is it's not powerful enough.
Yeah.
So, like, why would you settle for that? I mean, I know you settle for that because you're Nintendo. You want to sell it for as low a cost as you can. Because at this point, you know, this is everybody's second console. Like, you're not anyone's primary console at this point.
Not launching 3 years into the cycle.
So, but, like, I don't know. I hope at least they have faster RAM than the Xbox One, so they can, you know, make it a snappier experience.
Yeah. I think it needs to be at least as powerful as PlayStation 4, and really it needs to be more powerful than PlayStation 4.
It'd be nice to have, because I think that both consoles are underpowered. It'd be nice to have, like, because, like, there's, like, kind of where you win the enthusiast crowd like us over, where it's, like, it's a little more powerful than PlayStation 4, and it's, like, oh, yeah, that multi-platform game, it's 1080p, 60 frames per second on the NX. Locked on the NX. It's not on the others. So you can sell for 900p on the PS4 if you want, or you can play it in full resolution on the Nintendo system. It's like that. I mean, I'm going to say straight up, I would buy the Nintendo system for that.
It needs to be clear, in my opinion, needs to be clearly more powerful than both the machines. Like, it can't even be like GameCube and Xbox, where some games you could say, okay, Xbox maybe is more powerful, and then other games, like you see Metroid Prime, and you're like, oh, no, GameCube's definitely more powerful. Like, it needs to be definitive that it's more powerful than the other two. Like, the average person needs to be able to look at it and be like, yeah, I can see that. So that's the first thing I would say to the first part of the rumors. The second one...
Did you ever think that was going to happen, though?
I don't think it's going to happen.
But did you ever? Like, do you ever think Nintendo would actually take that tactic?
No. I mean, the last time they did it was the N64, really.
Yeah. And that was really more kind of a coincidence. Yeah, like that was just the way they went with their hardware.
Well, 3D technology was so new back then.
Everybody had their own 3D idea.
Right, I don't think it was like, it's kind of like VR right now.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of had their own spin
on it.
Look
at the N64 versus the PS1 versus the Saturn. It's like those are three totally different ways of coming at the 3D idea.
It is, totally, yeah. So, I don't know. I don't have faith that they'll put out a console more powerful than the PlayStation 4, but I think that they need to. Second, so the system has an HDMI dongle. I love saying that word. Dongle. So basically, you can just bring it home, take the HDMI dongle, plug it into your TV or your receiver or whatever, and instantly it's on your television. So that's the whole handheld console hybrid thing.
Where's the power?
I don't know.
Still have a power cord?
They didn't say anything about that.
Or, like, can I still just plug it in with a regular HDMI cable if I don't want one more wireless thing to be interfered with while I'm trying to play a game?
Well, they're saying it's like, it also is going to have advanced streaming technology similar to the Wii U, like the Wii U on crack, I guess, is the best way to put it. Mm-hmm. Its streaming technology is supposed to be better than what the Wii U had, which the Wii U streaming is pretty freaking incredible, if you ask me. It's already, like, hard to notice, like, if any delay between, like, what's really happening and it getting streamed out to your gamepad. Look, we don't have all the facts yet. This is just like the bullet-pointed list that
I just don't see why that's like a thing you'd even waste time on. Like, why? What does that tie into? How does that factor into what their overall vision for the system is? Because it has to be something. Because there's no reason to put that in there unless you're after something larger.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get what the dongle is. As long as it just has an HDMI port on it, that's all you need.
Yeah. So what's the... I don't know.
I don't know either. It was just one of the things that they mentioned. Maybe somebody in chat has a clear idea of what they were saying in that. But I read 5 or 6 different stories on this, and I didn't see anybody have any clarification on it at all. So basically, just said there's an HDMI dongle you can plug into the system that will let you plug it into an HDMI port in your TV or whatever, and so you can display it on the TV, and that was the whole console handheld hybrid thing. I don't know.
Well, I hope there's more to that story than just that.
Well, I mean, I think you can also assume by that this is also kind of a tablet system, that the system has a screen on it. So, and if you looked at some of those patent filings that Nintendo made, that's exactly what it was. It was a system with a screen built into it. A weird kind of screen, though.
Just make a video game system, Nintendo. Just a video game console.
I don't know if that's ever going to happen again,
console.
Matt. I don't know if that'll happen ever again.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, next bullet point, haptic analog sticks. So if your character runs into a wall, the sticks will physically push back to let you know that you've bumped into something.
That'll be annoying after about 10
is that
minutes.
something that you're interested in?
No,
Me
I don't
either.
care.
I have no interest in that at all.
It's like the many years ago, 5-6 years ago, I had to cover E for All, if anyone remembers what that was. That was the E3 in November you could go to that no one went to.
Yeah, nobody went to.
But we had to go, the main reason we were going was to cover the immersion vest, which was like this like...
Oh, I have one.
Yeah, it was like this vest.
One.
You have one of those?
They gave me one,
Wow.
yeah.
So we went and like we had to do this segment. It was me and Blair Herter. We did this segment on it. And I wore it and played with it. It was it's like this vest you put on, and basically it punches you in the chest when you get shot.
Yeah,
like that's it's got various places you can.
Yeah, like it is like location specific and everything.
It's location specific if the game supports it, and like it's legit. Like it really works. Like if it feels like you're getting tagged by something. But I'm like, this is cool. Take it off me. Like it's just like I'm not gonna play a 70-hour game like
with this thing on.
Like it supports Skyrim or whatever. I'm just like, I'm not gonna play Skyrim with this on. What are you like? I'm not going to suit up before I play a video game and like suit up specifically so it can hurt me. Like that doesn't make any sense.
I think I may make an exception for when VR finally gets to the point where people have pressure suits. Like
that makes more sense because you're trying for a full body thing. But I'm just like, I don't know, man. When I was
it was also really heavy.
Right, it was very heavy. Yeah. It was like almost 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Or something. It was literally like wearing combat gear. It was like, but like
it was like a bulletproof vest.
Yeah, it was a bulletproof vest that shot you.
Yeah.
But like, for like VR, that makes more sense to me because you're going for a full body like immersion experience. Whereas like if I'm just sitting on my couch with a controller, like I don't want something that's like punching me in the head or pushing my fingers off the sticks.
I don't
either, like
what?
Like,
all it would take is one time for that to happen and for me to die, and I would just immediately go to the menu and turn it off.
That'd be into that.
That'd be it. Like cats, I'm not dealing with that anymore.
I mean, I'm sure there'll be cool things, and there's some things
Look, Nintendo
like
doesn't have a
if you
habit
got
of
like
making
what if
stuff
in
cool.
Splatoon 2 there's like a weapon that lets you like screw with people's aim.
Yeah.
And, or with their controls, and like it just like forces you to go the other way when you're. And
or
maybe
Eternal Darkness 2.
Yeah, that could be fun. That's no.
That's not happening.
Put something in the vein of that, but it's just I don't know. Like it seems. It's
Here's
also
one thing I'll say,
it's like you have way more bigger fish to fry than whether your sticks push my thumb back or not, dude.
Right.
Like it's such a weird.
They're missing the forest for the trees
Yeah.
with a lot of this stuff in this rumors list. And here's another thing I'll say is that a lot of times when you hear about stuff that Nintendo's doing, it sounds really stupid and lame. But then you actually try it, and you're like, okay.
That's cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think Miiverse is a little bit like that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm like, wait,
I still
they're
don't
creating
care.
their own social network? Why would they? Oh, this is actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it's nice. It's cool.
It is
I mean, part of it
different.
is like I would care more if I was like 10.
Right.
But it's cool. Like, when you play with it, you're just like, oh, that's cool. I get to see what people thought about each level and stuff. And I was like, but it's like you said with the sticks, it's like I did that on like what was it Mario 3D New Super Mario Brothers, and like each level you can see people's like comments about it. So, and that lasted about 5 levels, and I was like, I don't need to know what you people think about this.
Well, they kind of do that stuff in like the Soul series as well, where people can kind of leave notes for you and be like, look out, but then you have the people who troll you, and they're like, oh, just run on through this section, and like you run through and somebody hacks your head off.
But part of that is also like the cool thing. Reason that's cool in Dark Souls is that like you can't write whatever you want. You have to kind of construct it out of what they give you, and like sometimes it's partly like what are they saying with the like this one, and you go ahead and like it's like, oh, that makes sense.
I get it now. Yeah.
My favorite part of Miiverse actually is when you just load up the system and it's kind of that main screen where like you just see people clustered around each current game, and people will just like pop up like art they drew on like the gamepad, and like some of that stuff is like, wow, like some of that stuff is really
it's
good.
Amazing, dude.
Like people like just do incredible works.
People just have so much time on their hands. I don't know how they get it.
I don't know. Some of these people that are good at drawing, because I can't draw, they can just like sketch it out. It's like there's a perfect photorealistic Pikachu with a stylus and a gamepad. Boom.
Going back to what I was saying earlier about how sometimes you hear about stuff Nintendo's doing, and then you try it, and you're pleasantly surprised. I would say that the Wii U is the opposite of that. Like, it looked really cool to me in promos and the first trailers, and we saw it on stage at E3.
Because they didn't do anything with it.
And then, like, when you actually went to do the stuff, it wasn't anywhere near as fun or cool as when...
But it was also, it's a single-touch tablet screen, which means, like, you're already, like, 5 years behind the times with that. But, like, the main thing for me was that they never did anything that took advantage of that asymmetrical multiplayer beyond, like, Zombie U.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when the system first got announced, Penny Arcade did a strip where it was, like, it had, like, 3 people playing, like, a D&D, like, action RPG thing with the Wii controllers, and then, like, the fourth person was, like, using the gamepad to be the dungeon master and like throwing stuff in their path, which by the way is like a premise for like a lot of board games now.
Right.
Like that was a lot, and he's like, and at the end they're like that, you can have that one for free, Nintendo. You're welcome. Yeah. It's like, and they never did anything like that.
Yeah.
Like it's
like Zombie U. Like there was one year at E3. So every year at E3, Nintendo does this thing after hours, and it's like they do their press conference if they have one. And then they do their first day at the booth, and then at the end of the day, like if you get a special invite, you go to this room, and a lot of times it's like Miyamoto in there, and like they basically go more in depth on whatever their big product is at the show that year. And one year they took us into that room, and it was like this crazy asymmetrical multiplayer game from Ubisoft. And so it's very weird, first of all, for them to ever bring in like a third party. It's always Nintendo stuff at this. And they brought in Ubisoft, and it was awesome. Like, it was everything. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is completely different from anything you can do on any other system. Basically, like, the zombie master had the gamepad, and he deployed the zombies on the gamepad, and then the other people playing had to, like, fight off the zombies that this guy was spawning. And it had some crazy different name, and I think they just ended up integrating it into Zombie U or whatever. So, you're right. Like, that blew my mind, and I was like, the possibilities. I'm like, this is the first game that they've built with this system to do this. Like, imagine in 3 years when they really worked with it, and it never happened.
They never do anything again. And by the way, like, that's what Fable Legends is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
like that's what that is. That's the exact concept. And like, the Xbox One is about to have a better asymmetrical multiplayer game than the system that was designed for it,
and it was created for. Yeah.
And it blows my mind that like you. And that's like even if you were like Wizards of the Coast, if you like, you'd think you'd want to get in on that because it's like that could introduce a whole new generation to Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. Even if you do it like a simplified version of D&D playing. And it
could also be a killer app. I mean, imagine if you had got like Dungeons and Dragons exclusively for the Wii U.
Right. Or just how about this? Look, if let's throw it back to the old idea from the GameCube. What if they brought Pac-Man Versus back?
Right.
And that was a lot of fun. But you had to have like 4 Game Boy Advances and the cables for every one. Everyone had to sit around the GameCube because the cables are really short.
Yeah.
And like, but it's like you could do that like idea so much better with the Wii U, and they just never even tried.
I know. It's been a huge disappointment.
And Pac-Man's in Smash Brothers. It's not like they don't have the relationship with Namco. Yeah. Hell, that could have been a mode you could unlock in Smash Brothers.
You're absolutely right. Yep.
Because everybody playing Smash Brothers already has all these other controllers.
Yep, you're right.
What a waste.
It was, really. The Wii U never hit its potential anywhere close. The only thing I would say is visually, like, the games, I think, ended up looking better than I thought that they would.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool to see, like, I mean, I'm not the biggest Mario fan in the world, but, like, playing New Super Mario Brothers on that is really cool because it's, like, it's so sharp. It looks so good. It looks... Mario's never looked that good. Same with Mario 3D World. I mean,
it looks great.
It's great to see, and
part it's 1080.
1080p. Well, it's also like
60 frames a second.
I mean, we have kind of been seeing that for years. If you've been playing anything from the Wii on Dolphin, the emulator, where like you can make Mario Galaxy look like it should have.
Right. Yeah.
Frankly, I mean, it's like That it's in there. It's not like they're making
there,
more stuff.
yeah.
Like if the Wii could output a decent video signal, that's what it would look like.
You're right. You're absolutely right. All right, let's move on to the next bullet point: Bluetooth sync. Basically, it connects with all your Bluetooth devices, so you'll get alerts on the TV screen when somebody texts you.
Give me my PlayStation 4 controller back, Nintendo.
Yeah. So you'll get alerts if people like tweet at you, or you get a message on Facebook or whatever. All the same functionality that your cell phone has with Bluetooth.
The cell phone I have next to me on the table that I can look at when I'm playing a video game.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
There's really no point.
No.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, like, that's, again, we've talked about how, like, I think at least the NX needs to integrate mobile a little bit, at least to have some kind of support for Pokemon Go involved. To give you a reason to bring your Pokemon Go to the NX and kind of have it interact somehow. So I'm sure that's partly related to that.
Yep. Extensive social features. I mean, look, that is one place where Nintendo's really missed the ball this generation. Mm-hmm. Look, you can set up your Xbox One and your PlayStation 4 so that you send out tweets, Facebook posts, whatever, every time you do anything, upload video directly to the services so people can watch it directly. Nintendo kind of walled it all off on Miiverse. Mm-hmm. Miiverse doesn't really integrate with other social media. It looks like Nintendo's going to change its stance. I don't know if it's going to dump Miiverse, but at the very least it appears that it's going to integrate Miiverse into other social media networks. That has to happen.
Yeah, and it's also like, it's not like the other two have perfected this by any means whatsoever. There's plenty of room for Nintendo to come in and have the best social interaction features on the console.
It's pretty good, though. I mean,
it is, but I mean, it's very...
It's pretty cool to, like, record something. Especially I love, like, the Xbox One, like, record that feature when something crazy happens. And just trim it down real quick and upload it to social media, and it's like, boom, people can watch it right there.
But it's
Same
just
with PlayStation 4
but there's
share.
still
like,
a lot of room for improvement. I mean, we just found out that the next firmware for the PlayStation 4 is finally adding the option to have the PlayStation 4 tell you when your friends sign on.
Yeah.
2 years later.
It's really funny.
And it's also it was another one that was finally, after how long have PlayStations been online? Finally, they're adding an option to appear offline.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would have been a technical challenge. Apparently.
No one's perfect. We're not just bagging on Nintendo.
No, Nintendo certainly has a window in that area to blow the competition away if they come up with the right ideas, I think.
Yep, and the final bullet point is easy to use and easy to develop for.
Well, the former I would always expect, because Nintendo always wants it to be easy to use. The latter I don't know anything about, so I can't.
Yeah, the guy who leaked it said it's if you're good at using an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy, that you should be able to jump right in and use the NX with no problem. So
that's disconcerting in some ways, but
I don't know. I think.
Well, I'm just kind of hoping it's more than a phone or a tablet, I guess would be.
I mean, that's really what it's kind of looking like. I mean, look, they're saying new ARM processors are more powerful than PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Maybe Nintendo's worked out some kind of a deal to debut these new ARM processors. Because look, they use ARM in 3DS.
Yeah.
They've used ARM, I believe, in all their last 2 or 3 handhelds.
Yeah.
So they already have that relationship, and if the performance of those processors is really getting to that place...
It's like funny, though, because a lot of like that stuff, plus the haptic analog sticks, and some of the other, like, there's a question that raises in my mind that I don't want to ask, but it does pop up, and that question is, does it have buttons?
Yeah. It has to. It better.
Nintendo said before, it's like you have to have, like, there's nothing that matches a button.
There's buttons, dude. There's got to be. If there are no buttons, I won't buy it. No buttons, no buy. Let's start a campaign, Sifters. No buttons, no buy. If they debut that thing and it's all touchscreen, I'll start the hashtag and it will spread like wildfire. No buttons, no buy. That's the bottom line. I won't buy a video game console if it doesn't have buttons.
No BA, stop.
Yeah, exactly. So, how overall, is this encouraging to you, all this stuff? I mean, look, again, it may not even be true.
I don't know.
It probably is.
I mean, it's more or less what I expected outside of the haptic analog sticks. I didn't really see that one coming. But and the wireless HDMI, which I think sounds pointless, but maybe there's like I said, there must be some bigger picture reason for that.
Yeah.
But again, show me the games. Like your hardware is what your hardware is. But even as much of a failure as the Wii U has been, if you'd made that Zombie U2 enhancement of that idea, if you made that D&D game, if you made that Pac-Man Versus mode, like, I'd have forgiven you a lot. But there's nothing there that takes advantage of the design of those things. Even Xenoblade's map, like on Xenoblade Chronicles X, like I'm like, this is cool. There's a cool way to use this. I feel like I don't need to mess with menus too much and all that stuff. I like that. And like, if there'd been more to that, if there'd been more games that were not afraid to sort of step outside the boundaries and really take advantage of what they'd made, I think I would like that system a lot more than I have. Yeah. But they haven't. So if it's a weird system again, I hope they just go balls to the wall and embrace it and do it. If you want to really look, it's like, oh, we want the Nintendo difference, which is one of their slogans they've used forever.
I haven't heard that for a while.
Well, then be it. Like, do it. Like, get out there and make something different. So, like, when I play it, I don't think I wish I was just playing this on a PlayStation.
Yeah, which sadly is how I felt about a lot of Nintendo games of late. Is I don't see any advantage to playing this on Nintendo's hardware anymore.
Right. So make it special.
Yeah.
That's what they have to do.
All right, let's move on to the next topic, folks. Going to talk about superhot.
Yeah.
Superhot. Have you played this, Matt?
I have not. I've watched some videos, and I saw. I honestly, I'd never heard of it until you posted like 15,000 reviews of it on Sifted.
Really, you'd never heard of it?
I don't. If I'd heard of it, I had forgotten about it.
Wow.
Now I feel when I read a description of it, how it's it's like a shooter and time doesn't move unless you move. Like, that sounded familiar, so I must have heard about it, but I just forgot. It was not on my radar at all.
Here's what I'm going to say about this game. The first hour of playing this game is one of the coolest, most unique experiences I've had playing a video game in a long, long, long time, Matt. There's nothing like it. And it's so hard to say that. I mean, just visually it looks different, but the gameplay is completely unlike anything I've ever experienced before. It goes completely against what you've taught your brain, what you've fed your brain for the last however many years you've been playing video games. And it's a first-person shooter, but it doesn't play like a first-person shooter at all. It actually plays more like a puzzle game because it's all about managing time and looking at the variables that are put into each room, because really it's just like a room-by-room experience. And so you have all these variables. You have X number of enemies. You have the enemies' locations. You have the distance between the enemies. You have the weapons that the enemies have. You have the space between you and the enemies, where you have to try to figure out how much time you have to close that space. It made me think about video games in a way that I have never thought about video games before.
It looks it's like a first-person shooter with the lessons of roguelikes applied to it almost.
A little bit. I mean, a lot of times when I think of roguelike, I think like survival for some reason.
But one of the things to me that like defines, I know that it's kind of expanded in recent years, but I think of things like Dragon Crystal and like all that, and where like when you move a square, everything else moves a square.
Yeah.
And so like that's one of the defining elements of a roguelike to me, and that's what I keep getting reminded of watching.
No, it is a very similar aesthetic for sure.
Which I've always found to be one of the most compelling elements of roguelikes, so that's a positive thing to me.
I mean, look, this isn't really a first-person shooter at all. I mean, there's some skill involved with, like, sighting things up, but the enemies don't do anything until you move. So you have plenty of time to, like, sight guys up. It's really about planning. You go into a room and you're like, okay, I have this guy over here.
He missed.
He missed. Yeah. So you have like these two guys here. One guy has a gun, one doesn't. Maybe you don't have a gun. So the other part that kind of throws an extra element into it is that if you throw things at the enemies, it will take their weapons away. So if you can toss like a coffee cup or whatever, and if you hit them in the head and they have a gun, the gun will pop up and you'll get the gun. And that adds a whole other layer to the way things work. And another part of it too is like if you have a gun and you throw the gun will break. So part of the strategy is not losing your weapons or breaking your weapons. So a lot of times you need to set the weapon down on the ground. It's crazy. For the first couple hours, like it just completely rewires your brain of how to play it. And the other thing that's really cool too is after you complete each room, it shows everything happen in real time in a replay. And that's when you understand like the full scope of what you've been doing. So you complete the level, it comes up with a super hot, and then it shows in real time what exactly happened. And so you'll see like you dodging like left and right around bullets, and then like throwing something and the gun pop, and then you get the gun and you pull it up and shoot it. And it looks so awesome when they show it at full speed that you don't even realize that's what you were doing while you're playing the game, because it's really like more strategic and about planning. So I enjoyed the living crap out of this game for a couple hours. The problem with the game is that it runs out of tricks really quickly. So probably after the first hour, they stop adding new elements into the levels, and from then on, it's just basically rinse and repeat over and over again. And it gets a little more complex because they'll throw more enemies into a room, or they'll throw a couple more variables, or they won't make it as easy to find things to throw at the enemies. And so they do mix it up a little bit that way, but as far as the tools that you get to play it, after the first hour, hour and a half, it doesn't really change. And then the whole game itself is really like 2-3 hours long. And they're asking, I got it for free. I believe they're asking $25 for this game.
Wow.
And they're working on VR for it. I'm assuming if you buy this now and eventually they update it for VR, that you will get that update for free. Again, I'm assuming. Don't quote me on that. I don't know that that's exactly the case. But it just makes smart business sense that if somebody already paid you $25 for a 3-hour game, that when the VR version of that game comes around, that those people should be able to get that for free. So in VR, this game would be incredible. It's cool when it's not in VR. But my problem is the expense, the cost of the game. Like, I talked about this a little bit last week. Like, to me, like, you know, the value that we expect from games is higher than films. And here you're talking about a 3-hour experience. There are lots of movies out there right now that are 3 hours long that you pay $10 or $15 for. Yeah. And here you're getting a 3-hour game experience for $20, $25. So I really feel like I'm put in a weird position. I think what it really comes down to is, how much do you value new experiences? Like, look, watching this, you can get the gist of it, and based upon what I've told you about it already, you can understand how it plays. How important is that new experience to you? If you really thirst for that type of stuff, it's probably worth $25, because it is, again, like something like you've never played before. I think people who may be sitting on the fence on this game, looking at it and be like, maybe it's not for me, I would not recommend buying the game. I would wait. It's inevitably going to go down. It's inevitably going to appear in Humble Bundles and all this other stuff where you can get it on a cheap discount. And again, it's a very, very short experience. So it's hard to rationalize spending half of a full-price game, essentially, on a 2 or 3 hour experience that, granted, is really flipping cool. So, you know, a lot of the reviews for this, and that's one thing I would say about a lot of reviews for indie games and smaller games, is that they never take into account, like, the value you're getting out of the game. Like, I think that's one thing with Sifted game evals that I like about them, is that, like, every time I go to write an eval, I'm forced to think about every element of a video game. You have to, because you have to write each section of that game eval. And so just intrinsically, you're forced to evaluate every element of the game. And I feel like this is another one of these cases where people are like, that was awesome! And that's it. It's like, this game was awesome. They don't think about, like, what it's like for people to actually pay for stuff, because, you know, all journalists get their games for free. So you know, for certain people, I can't recommend it highly enough. For other people, I would say don't buy it. I don't know. It's one of those games that put me in a corner where I'm like, you know, I'm working on writing the game eval right now. In fact, I hope I finish it up tonight whenever I get back from recording the show. But it's put me in a really weird position on working in the game eval, like trying to figure out who do you recommend this game to. And I would say to people who've been playing games for 20, 30 years, who are maybe burning out on some of the stuff that just seems to get recycled over and over, those are the people that I would recommend buying it. Also, I would say those people generally are a little older, a little farther along in their careers, probably have a little more disposable income, so it's not going to hurt them, you know, if they were to spend $20, $25 on this game. So really cool, man. I mean, I love the concept. I wish that they had fleshed it out a little more. I wish that they had created more content. Look, after the game is over, there is stuff to do. Like, there's kind of like time trials and things like that, where you can kind of perfect your play and get better and better at it. But there's no, like, Game Plus, per se, where there's new content to play through and stuff like that. So, again, for certain people, I highly recommend it. For others, I would just say stay away and watch a Let's Play. That's the other thing, too, is you could watch a Let's Play on YouTube for free, and it's only 2 hours long, and you can pretty much watch the whole game being played right there. So, There you have it. That's super hot. You gonna give it a shot, Matt?
I might. I have a lot to play right now.
Yeah.
But
it's not gonna get any better. Easier.
No, it's not.
It's only gonna get worse from here on out. But it is only a couple hours, so
yeah. But I
get
think
through it really quickly. I think here's one thing I will say is I think people are gonna end up referencing this game for a long time to come. I think 3-4 years from now, when inevitably there'll be a couple clones that come out.
Well, definitely. Like I look at this and I'm just like, well, at the very least, I'm going to have this played by E3 because everyone's going to be talking about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everywhere you go, Pure Baby plays super hot.
Yeah.
So you'll need that frame of reference. But I just think in general, like this will be a game that people will point to. I'm sure by this time next year there'll be at least 1 or 2 other games that are like it, where things, and maybe it's not a shooter. Maybe it's a platformer where things only change while you're moving.
Yeah.
Or...
But you're right. I mean, I just put down $20 to go see to pre-order a ticket for Batman vs Superman, which I don't even think I'm going to like. So
I am not going to see that movie.
I have got to be on the front lines of that argument.
I have no interest in that film at all.
So if I can spend $20 on that, I can spend $20 on this.
I'm sure if you went back and talked to like my 8-year-old self, and you said, when you get up to a certain age, you're not going to want to go see a movie that is Batman versus Superman. I'd have been like, my old self is lame.
No, your old self knows crap when he sees it.
Yeah, it looks like crap. I'm sure it'll still do gangbusters.
Oh, it'll have going to be a huge opening weekend, no question.
Yeah.
Will it have the repeat business to make money like the Avengers or Star Wars or Deadpool? I don't know if everybody wants to go see Batman and Superman be dicks to each other for 2.5 hours over and over. We'll see.
Yeah.
Why is there no game?
That would probably be better.
Isn't it kind of sad that like there's no games for these big movies anymore?
But they're usually terrible anyway, though.
Yeah, but every once in a while you get the good one. Every once in a while there'd be one that's like, oh, this was way better than I thought it was going to be.
Every once in a great while.
I don't know. I miss like big event movies not having shitty games supporting it. There was a charm to it.
They were a lot of the B-level games, actually.
Yeah. And Amazing Spider-Man continued that all the way until a couple years ago because of some contracts they had to fulfill, I think.
That actually segues pretty well into our next topic, which is The Division and its reviews.
Ah, yes. Please do not review this until it's too late for the consumers. That was the watchword of the superhero licensed movie tie-in game, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And B-level games. Like a lot of those games that would sell for $30 or $40. Like, you wouldn't get them until they released. And they'd ship them out on the day they shipped out to stores. So you would actually get the game like 2 days after it came out. By the time you got the review done, it was 4 or 5 days later. At that point, all the impulse buying's been done. You say the game sucks, it's too late, people have already bought it. Yep. So with this one, they're not even giving us code for the game until it's available to everybody.
Like we're just downloading it when everyone else is downloading.
And look, this is Ubisoft. We always get code way early for Ubisoft. I had Far Cry Primal a week before it came out. They're not sending us download codes for this until retail hits. And so look, the message that they sent out through PR was there's not going to be anyone on the servers anyway. This game's all about playing online, so it wouldn't really do you any good to have this code before everybody has it. And it's total bullcrap because, as we all know, and as anybody who played the beta knows, there are single-player missions in this game. And
outside of the Dark Zone, it can be fully played single-player.
Right. And so why not get us the codes, let us play through all the single-player content leading up to... I should have this game now, basically. So I'm playing through all the single-player stuff. And sure, reviews come out a day or two after the game is released. That's fine. Because they're right. You do need to test this out in the wild when there's thousands of people on the server so you can really understand how the design works and if the balancing works. And
I'd rather get a review from someone who's put a week into it than a day and a half.
Right, and if the loot drops are working properly and the drop rates are right.
All first day Destiny people know what that's about.
Exactly. So I understand their angle, but there's no excuse for not letting us play through the single player campaign stuff. There's none.
Yeah, I don't see those.
Because
we've done it before.
Right. What's going to happen is that now, instead of putting up the game eval a couple days or 3 days, maybe the online's so robust that it's 4 days after it comes out. We don't know yet. But no matter what, because they won't let us play the single-player content, you're going to have to tack on an extra however many days to play through the single-player as well past the release date. So what does that tell you, Matt? What is your spider sense tingling over right now? What is it telling you?
I don't know. Well, like, usually in this situation, it would tell me that, like, oh, there's something wrong and they don't trust it. Like, there's something up. But I played the beta and it was solid. I really, in fact, I think we've talked before. I had no interest in the Division, and I played the open beta weekend. And I'm like, and now I'm gonna buy it. Like, I really liked it. I was shocked because, like, I think that the open beta had a lot more content than the earlier one that you played. But I really, and I just, like, whatever it was, the bullet sponge stuff does kind of bother me a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. And, like, for whatever reason, the setting is compelling to me, and, like, building the base is cool, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I'll do it. So, like, and it also, like, because it was open beta, it's not like people haven't played the first few hours of the game already anyway. So it's like, what would they be hiding? I don't know. The only thing I can think is there must be some massive day one patch or something that they don't want people playing without.
Here's what I think. I think the single player content is not up to scratch, and I think maybe there's not that much of it. And I think that they are afraid that if we get that game today or whatever, that what people will do is they'll put up the single-player review in progress on embargo or before the game comes out. And look, there's a lot of people out there who still care about playing a game by themselves without being online or whatever. And I feel like they're afraid that if the word gets out that the single-player stuff in this game isn't great, like Destiny, that it could taint the pool. And people are going to be like, well, wait a minute, like, I like playing online sometimes, but is that really all I'm going to be able to do in this game? Because the single player is not great? Like,
but everything's online in this game.
It is. Well, you're connected while you play. It's not like you need other people to be in your game to complete the single player quests. They're designed to play by yourself. So not only is it going to keep us from getting reviews done before a week. I mean, you're probably not going to see real reviews for this until at least a week after it's on store shelves. It's shifty. Like, right now the graphics says shifty or shrewd. It's shifty and shitty. It's the best way to put it. Like, I'm not like the journalist. It's like, oh, like, we need to get it early. Like, all I care about is serving our subscribers and serving people. That's all I've ever wanted to do in this industry, is help people spend their money intelligently. Save them from wasting their money. $60 is a lot of money. And so I remember what happened with Destiny. So actually, let's just go back over history a little bit here, Matt. So this isn't the first time Ubisoft has done this. Ubisoft also did it with The Crew, where they I think with The Crew, they didn't send out code until too late for basically when the game came out. Assassin's Creed Unity, I don't know if you remember this or not, they gave people an embargo and gave them the game early. The embargo was for the next day at noon. So basically they're saying, look, this game is going to be on store shelves for 12 hours before you're allowed to post your review, which is just insane because conceivably what you could have done is bought it at midnight, played it for 12 hours, written your review in an hour or two.
You can finish Unity in that amount of time if you just go through the story.
Well, if it weren't for the bugs, huzzah! But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's ridiculous. That's completely ridiculous. But look, they knew that game was bad, and that was them definitely protecting the game because they knew it had bugs, they knew it had issues, and they knew it was going to get murdered in reviews, which consequently it was, albeit a day later or 2 days later. So that's two cases of Ubisoft right there, like jimmying the review embargo process to try to cover its butt for games that, because The Crew got murdered too, man.
Oh yeah. But the thing with the Division, like, having played all those games and now played the beta of the Division feels like a much more solid game than those two.
Oh, I'd agree. Yeah.
So, like,
I mean, look, we're seeing a very small slice, Matt.
It's a very small slice, but, like, if you really want to go out and do all that stuff, I mean, there were people that took, like, 20 hours to do that last beta. And, like, that's a lot of time.
Yeah,
and I'm like, and so, like, when you say, like, is the single-player content Division, I'm like, have we seen, like, half the single-player content already in that beta?
Well, the one I played, I only had, like, 2 missions for single-player.
See, on the one I played, there were the map was full of stuff. I mean, it was like a Ubisoft map, there's tons of things to do, And so like there's the 3 different types of missions for like the 3 different things you upgrade the base, and there was like encounters, and there was like the blue dots for this, and the blue, and I was like I don't have time to do all this shit.
I should have played the second beta.
It was very different. It was
I guess so
for sure. And so like after coming out of that beta, I'm like, if there's a dearth of single player content, they really front loaded it well on that beta, because there was tons of stuff to do.
Well, it's either there isn't any,
or it's all the same.
Over
and over again.
Which,
because there's like 3 or 4 different types of missions basically that I ran into in the beta.
Which is like the Destiny syndrome,
more or less. And then of course there's the dark zone or whatever.
Right.
But like, I mean, that would be very disappointing.
It would be even more disappointing if the single player is gigantic, and you get it on the day it comes out, and your review doesn't come out till like 10 days later because you're grinding through like 4 or 5 days of campaign stuff. Like, there's really no case where this is good, I guess is what I'm getting at.
However, whatever their reasons for it, it's annoying, and it's not good for anyone who's thinking about buying this game.
And it doesn't make sense. Look, from the multiplayer and the Dark Zone, sure, I get it.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. Like, if I had worked for 3 or 4 years on a game that predominantly was online, I would not want people to go play it when there's like 3 dudes running around.
Right. But at the same time, it's like if they're concerned about getting killed in the reviews like they were with the Crew and Unity, like they've already put 2 betas out on this thing, and response to the last one was pretty good. So like I don't see why they'd be that concerned about it unless there's something we really don't know.
Right.
I think the main thing, I think the explanation is probably like, either a big day 1 patch, or like maybe the day 1 patch includes like half the game. Like maybe it's not done. Like maybe they're about to shove the last chunk of content in there, and like if you played it this week, it wouldn't be there at all.
Or maybe from the beta they came across some crazy bug that they're trying to squash. Like, there's something going on here. Like,
regardless, it doesn't look good.
Their reasoning for this is total bullcrap.
Right. I don't think they're telling. Yeah. I mean,
they're not telling the truth.
I wouldn't do you. And it's like just say it. Just because we know at this point, if it's something else, we're going to find out.
Eventually we'll find out, yeah.
It's like
you might as well be honest. Like, honesty is always the best policy no matter what you're talking about.
Yeah. That just doesn't seem to be how Ubi rolls, though.
No, it really doesn't. And sadly, they generally make really good games. So.
Yeah, but they always have, there's kind of this thing about how it's like, oh, they think they're going to fool people. And it's like, it never works. You can't fool the internet, people.
Well, eventually someone's going to leave your company who knows the story, and sooner or later, everyone's going to find out what really happened.
And also, in general, like, gamers are just way too interested in their own hobby to let this stuff lie, and someone's going to find out.
Yep.
And then you're going to look bad, but you look fine if you're like, look, we're having some problems, the content's not done, it's going to be all put up in time for the day 1 patch, but if you play it this week, you're not going to be playing the whole game.
Yeah.
That's all you need to say.
You're right. And so, just so you guys know, like...
That may or may not be true. That's total speculation. But,
so...
But I wouldn't, as a reviewer, I would not be offended or consider it a hugely negative thing if they said that to me.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, it's understandable. You got a release date, you got to hit it. This is a very, these online games are very malleable. Technical issues can pop up in the last second that you don't even realize. Like, if you need every single minute of time up to that launch minute, like, I understand.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. But, like, the story they gave you sounds a little PR-y.
Yeah, and, just so you know, Ubisoft isn't the only company that does this. In fact, it used to happen a lot more often back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Sega was notorious for doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a couple
Sonic
games.
You knew when Sega had a stinker because you
didn't get it.
Oh, yeah, we'll let you know. Like,
You didn't get it. You call them and they're like, oh, yeah, we sent that. And you're like, you got a tracking number on that? Oh, okay, I'll get that back to you.
Yeah.
Never hear from them again.
We're downstairs. How about we just come up and get one for you? He's like, no, it can't.
Shipping's in.
Reactor leak, radiation, very dangerous. Give us a second to lock it down. He was like, what the fuck's going on?
And look, it's happened, but usually it's happened with games that you kind of knew before you even reviewed them that they probably weren't going to be good.
Yeah.
You played them at like a preview event, and like your impressions where like that last sentence was like,
"They go, really? You don't want to send us Batman Dark tomorrow? You don't say."
Yeah. So. Look, we're not just picking on Ubisoft here. A lot of publishers do it, although it's a lot less prevalent than it used to be. Now that kind of that B tier of games has disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
But
very few major publishers really put out a game they think sucks. Anyway.
But I will say that Ubisoft does seem to be one of the few publishers left that still does it.
Well, you can take the B games out of the publishing schedule, but you can't take the France out of Ubisoft. Really.
So just so you know, we're gonna do next week's show on Wednesday because that'll give us a whole 24 hours to play The Division before we talk about it on GameFace.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, we will be doing the show next Wednesday, just like this week and the week prior, just to make sure maybe we can get in as much time as possible. I'm hoping like somehow over the next like few days, like pressure builds on Ubisoft. That's one of the reasons I'm talking about it right here. Is like I'm hoping, the more people that talk about it, the more people will tweet at them and be like, what's going on? Why are you not letting people review this game so that we can actually give you guys some valuable information at embargo break or at release date? So we'll see how it goes. Follow me on Twitter and I'll keep you up to date on when we get the game and when I'm starting to dig into it. So maybe Ubisoft will hear the cries and they'll change their stance and let us get through some of that single-player stuff before the servers go live. So otherwise, you're going to be waiting a while for that game eval. So nothing we can do about it. Just want to let you guys know that's what's going on with that game. And it's going to have the same for everybody. All the websites are dealing with it right now. So that's what's up. Let's move on to the next topic. Twilight Princess HD.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been playing this.
Oh, yeah?
I have not finished it.
Mine doesn't get here until Friday.
Yeah. I've, I don't know, about 10, 12 hours into it. I don't know if I'm going to play any more of it, to be honest with you. It's Twilight Princess, and I gave this game a really high score at GT when it came out. And granted, it's 10 years later. It was one of the first... Yeah. Yeah.
Why? What did they do to her face?
They didn't really do anything to her face. That's the way she looked.
No, that's not what her eyes looked like, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. I think you may be surprised.
I don't think so.
And that's kind of my whole point about this game is like my memory of this game and what this game really is a lot different. Or at least it was. Now that my memory's been set into its proper place.
Wow, look at that run animation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the puzzles in the game are still good, the dungeons are still good, but even with the HD, like, up-res, and, like, there's some scenes where they've added, like, a couple trees here and there, but this game...
Did they shorten, like, the beginning? Because, like, I remember taking, like, 7 hours to get, like, through the tutorial stuff into the first dungeon.
It's a lot more obvious than it was before. Like, I think I remember when I first played it, like, there's, like, there's the fishing thing at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I got completely stumped with, like, the whole hawk with, like, the... And now it's, like, more obvious what you need to do. It's a lot more difficult to get stuck at the beginning of the game. But beyond that, that's not even, like, what I was saying. Like, yeah, the beginning of the game is really slow, and you would never see this with a game today. Most games, like, smack you in the face with something right out of the gate to get you engaged and into it. They usually start with an action scene. The game still starts out really slowly. But it just feels like an old game. Like, I can play, like, 2D Zeldas... Most of them, and even Ocarina of Time, like, I can still play that game, and it doesn't feel like an ancient game, but this one, it does. The other thing, too, is this is the first time I played it without motion controls, because when I played it the first time, I played it on Wii with Waggle, and I actually liked the motion controls and the Waggle in it, if only for, like, the aiming, like the pointer aiming, because it was so accurate and quick and responsive. But... the story in this game is really hokey. The acting in it's really bad. Like,
it's a Zelda game.
It is. I gave this game a really high score 10 years ago. And maybe then it deserved that
score. What'd you give it? I don't remember.
Like a 9.5 or something like that. Yeah. Oh, I loved it.
This would have been more of like an 8 for me.
You would have been an extreme outlier back then if you gave this game an 8.
But I think I'm pretty much right in retrospect.
Yeah, I still think... Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it would have been that low for that. Think about 10 years ago. That was a long time.
Yeah, but this is also the first Zelda game I never finished.
Yeah.
I just stopped about 2/3 of the way through. I'm just like, why am I continuing to do this to myself? And you know what? Part of the problem was, like, you'd go through all that effort to find a chest, you'd open it, was a rupee, and you're still full. They're like, oh, you better put it back. I'm just like,
no.
Fuck you! And
I want that rupee.
I ordered the one with the amiibo specifically because the thing that unlocks is like the thing that gives you a wallet that holds like 9,900.
Right.
I'm just like, I will never have to close another chest again. Like, that's what I'm here for. I already know. The other thing that I thought was disappointing about this game back in the day was, they have the typical Zelda thing where you get the new item in each dungeon that kind of like lets you solve it. But this one in particular, in a way that the other Zeldas didn't at the time, up to then, like that item would be used in that dungeon, and then you'd like never use it again.
You're absolutely right.
Like especially the like the gyroscope top thing, which I thought that boss fight in that dungeon where you get that is awesome.
Yeah.
And then like you basically use it for like a couple secret items, and then never again.
Yeah.
And I know like the whole dungeon kind of has to be designed around it for something like that to work, but it just felt like they designed each dungeon around the item you get in it, and then they just sort of ignored it. Yeah. And I was disappointed by that.
Yeah, because like prior 3 Zelda games to that one, it was like you gradually built your arsenal until like you get to the final dungeon where you're using all of them in that final dungeon. And you're right, this one it was kind of like cordoned off. I think Skyward Sword was kind of like that too, actually.
A little bit.
You used all of them in Skyward Sword. Once you got out into the overworld, you used
them all in the overworld a lot more than you did in Twilight Princess. But yeah, the dungeons were still a little segmented in that regard. But I thought Skyward Sword did it better than Twilight Princess did in that, which is not something I will say very often. That Skyward Sword did something better than anything.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I think Midna is one of Nintendo's greatest characters of all time.
I really like Midna a lot. I like the tone of this game a lot. It's darker. It's more serious.
I like the look of it. I mean, not just in the sense of like when they revealed this. I think we were both at the Nintendo press conference when they revealed this, and
when people went berserk,
and everybody lost their minds, and people were crying in the aisles. And I mean, it was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Like no matter games or otherwise.
Like, no, anywhere. Like nothing. I mean, it must have been like what it was like to be in like a Beatles concert back in the day. It was insane. Like there were grown men crying on their knees behind me. I mean, it was amazing.
Well, this was like Nintendo delivering the game that the fans were asking for. They're like, just give us a sequel to Ocarina of Time. Why won't you do it? Why won't you do it? And this was Nintendo saying, here it is.
And so I mean, but I wasn't one of the. I mean, if it had a couple more dungeons, Wind Waker would be my favorite Zelda game. Like I have no problem with Wind Waker's cartoony, cel-shaded look at all. I thought it was great. But I also think this looks great too, and I even like a lot of people don't like kind of how it's sort of washed out a little bit. Everything's a little dreamlike and gauzy in this game.
I think that's
a really cool look to it though, but it seems like they lost a little bit of that in the HD translation.
Dude, there are moments in this game where it looks amazing, and it totally has the atmosphere that you're talking about. But then there are other parts where it looks terrible, like that shot that you were talking about before at the character model, like. There are some parts of this game where it looks every bit of 10 years old, but then there's some dungeons and some of the cutscenes where they do a really good job with the lighting and like the fogging and stuff, and like it has a lot of atmosphere. I also like the effects for when you attack enemies, how those like squares fly out, and like I like all that. But there's some parts where the game just looks like ass. I guess there's really no other way to put it, man. Like there's just lots of barren environments and like. I mean, they've improved the lighting a good bit for it. It's not quite as pixelated as the other versions were. But here's the thing about this game. Is like once you get into the dungeons and you're kind of over the presentation of it and everything, it's still a great game. And truth be told, you do spend 80% of your time in the dungeons in this game. The puzzles are still great. That's the thing about games that are built around like puzzles. Is like puzzles never get old. Like, you never look at a puzzle, you're like, well, I can tell that puzzle was made in 1981. Like, you just don't work that way.
I had a couple moments like that playing The Witness, though.
Oh, really? Yeah, I guess you're right. Line puzzles will do that to you.
Some of those puzzles could have been made in 1921.
Yeah, you're right.
They're completely divorced from the game.
It could have been in the back of the New York Times on Sunday or whatever.
It's like the opposite. It's the anti-Zelda in some ways, because like the great thing about Zelda is all those puzzles are always incorporated into the dungeon. The dungeon is the puzzle.
Yeah. So what I would say about this game is, if you've already played it, I do not recommend playing it again at all. Because what's going to happen? What's going to happen is you're going to ruin one of your favorite video game memories of playing this game. Like, it really did. Like, I questioned myself too. I was like, man, why did I like this so much back then? And I started looking, like, I went and started looking at like other games that came out the same year, and I actually felt a little bit better after I saw that. I was like, okay, this game was a kind of ahead of the curve, or at least not behind the curve when it came out. But
and also, it's the first like legit, straight up Zelda game since 1998. At that point, because Majora's Mask was not your normal Zelda game.
Yeah.
Wind Waker was obviously a totally different direction, and so here was your first. This was what was this? 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, launch of the Wii, 2006. So I mean, it'd been 8 years since we'd played like just a straight Zelda game.
The other thing too about it is that like no one copies Zelda. Like, I don't get it. Like, here and there, like, Darksiders is kind of a Zelda clone. Yeah,
Darksiders or Okami.
Yeah.
And they're never really particularly successful.
They're not. They're not at all.
I mean, I think Okami is a better Zelda game than this.
Some Zelda games, yeah.
But Okami never found, commercial success.
Yeah. And, so here's the other thing I would say about this, too, is it makes me very happy that Zelda U is completely changing direction. Because, and I learned this with Skyward Sword, but this was like a painful like reminder stabbed into my back, is that, like the Zelda formula feels kind of ancient at this point, and there's a lot of elements of it that need to be brought up to speed and changed, and so...
I think you could do
it disappointed me in myself for liking this game so much when it came out, but it also emboldened me to be much more excited for the new Zelda. So,
I think with Midna, I think you can get a lot more out of the formula if you have characters that can, really carry you along through it and be something you're interested in, something you care about. But then you run into the problem of they refuse to let Link talk, so you've only got kind of so far you can go with that. So maybe it is time for Zelda U to really completely reinvent the wheel.
I mean, it definitely is. If they would put out a game like this now, oh boy.
Well, on that one, you're just like, how did that take that long to make? Like that's a Ubisoft level, like once a year, every 2 years thing.
Yeah. See, shots like this right here, like this scene, the game's incredible, the atmosphere is awesome, but then you get like outside and it's just this barren green, blocky polygonal disaster.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing about Zelda U kind of doing the open world thing, because previous Zeldas have done an open field,
right?
But there's not really anything in that field. Like in Zelda, a lot of and Ocarina has that too, where it's like a lot of it's big and open and you can run around, but mainly you're using it as a travel time between interesting places.
Because that was a big deal back then, though. Yeah. Having that field, like in Ocarina of Time, was like, oh my god, I can get on a horse and I can ride for like 5 miles.
We're in Hyrule. He's never been. Oh my god, you have to get to the castle before nighttime because they close it, so you'll die even if you're 5 inches away from it. And then bring the fucking like have fun with the zombies. Yeah, but
that is honestly something I feel like Nintendo has a problem recognizing, is when something that used to be cool is no longer cool.
It's like your dad.
Exactly. Because they operate in like this vacuum where they're not influenced by a lot of other developers and publishers, and a lot of times that ends up creating great experiences that are different from everything else, but in other ways, it also makes them hold on to ideas way too long. And I think not just even in like Zelda or whatever, just I think in general in their business, it's been something that's been a problem for them for a while. So, their reluctance to go into online play. And I mean, we can go on and on about Nintendo dragging its feet.
Yeah.
And
it's something to remember that even like the geniuses sometimes don't know great when it's in front of them. And the thing I always think about with that is... it's an old Warner Brothers cartoon called Duck Amuck, which is where Daffy Duck gets drawn into all these horrible things, and it's very strange. But the story goes that the guy who wrote and made that, in the old days, the way Chuck Jones, the genius behind the Looney Tunes stuff, he would watch the rough animation of it through like a little kinetoscope thing with no sound. And if you watch that cartoon with no sound, it's just Daffy talking to the camera for 7 minutes. And he's like, there's no way, we can't. And the guy begged him to watch it with sound in the screening room, so they finally did, sat down, watched it, the thing rolled, and Chuck Jones goes, okay. And like that, and that was it. And that's how one of the greatest cartoons ever got on the screen. But it's like sometimes you don't even, it doesn't matter how great you are or what you do, sometimes you just don't see it when it's in front of you.
Yep. So to wrap it all up, I would say, if you've played it already, don't buy it again for a number of reasons. It's not worth it. Even if you're like desperate,
cancels pre-order.
Even if you only own a Wii U, like I would say go buy. And if you have a 3DS, go like buy Fire Emblem Fates or something. Like
go play Wind Waker HD if you haven't played that yet.
Yeah. if you've not played Twilight Princess, it is undoubtedly the superior version in pretty much every regard. They've smoothed out pretty much every rough edge on it. Again, they haven't affected a lot of the geometry in the worlds, which I think is why it looks so dated in a lot of places.
Link's properly left-handed.
Yeah.
Which he was not on the Wii.
Exactly. It is the definitive version of the game, and probably the best version of the game you're ever going to get. I don't see them doing this again.
Unless there's like user-made texture pack stuff on the Dolphin and stuff, but like...
This already runs at 1080p, rock solid, 30 frames a second.
I would hope.
Never falters, right. It should be able to, but it does. Like, look, there are some HD remasters where the frame rate gets sloggy, and that's not the case with this one. It's technically solid.
30, not 60?
I think it's 30. That's what it appeared to me while I was playing it. I haven't seen like any Digital Foundry videos to know, but it seemed to me that it was 30 frames per second.
It looks like 60 watching it here, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I don't think that the encoding of the video that you're watching right now is 60.
No, but there's a smoothness to it that I thought might be that. But...
It is smooth, though. It is silky smooth, and it never stutters. And so, yeah, it is the definitive version of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, but I think you may be like me if you've played it already and be unpleasantly surprised that the game doesn't hold up to maybe the lofty standards that you held it to.
What if you're like me and you didn't even like it all that much in the first place, but you're kind of curious again?
Well, here's what I would say to you. You should definitely play it because you never finished it the first time, and there are some incredible dungeons in this game. And so, yeah, for you, play it. Like, don't cancel your pre-order or whatever. You're going to need that amiibo anyway. So, if you've never played it before, it's probably worth playing. If you're a Zelda fan, it's definitely worth playing. But I'm just saying... Fair warning to people who have already played it, do not go and buy this again thinking that it's this crazy new experience that's going to make it so much better than the last time you played it. Chances are you're going to come away with it being like, dang, I can't believe I like that so much. So at least that's how I feel anyway. And I would call myself a Zelda fan. Like, I've played every Zelda game I think ever. The only game I didn't finish was Minish Cap, which I probably should have because everyone says that it gets better as it goes. But,
I finished that, but I don't remember any of it.
Yeah. Well, those like
that's the forgotten Zelda game. Everyone forgets that.
Developed handheld versions.
Well, I never played like the
Oracle of
Four
Ages
Swords
or Seasons.
I finished those. I played. I like those. But like Minish Cap, I remember I played through all of Minish Cap, and I didn't have any problem with it. I was like, oh yeah, cool. So I couldn't tell you a damn thing about that game. Like I don't remember a single thing except the hat.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like I don't know what. Cap. And everyone forgets that game. It's like people list like their favorite Zelda games, and no one ever puts Minish Cap on their list. They're like, what about Minish Cap? You never played that? It's like, oh no, I played that. Yeah, it's pretty good. Like,
There's a hat in it.
It's like the Zelda game everyone can agree on. We all thought it was okay.
Yeah.
There's no reason to complain about it. There's no reason to praise it.
Yeah.
Minish Cap.
Yeah. All right, so that's going to wrap up Zelda. It's time to move on to the last topic of the Big Six. Big HoloLens coming out party, Matt.
Yeah. Big money.
Big party for rich people.
Big money, no whammies. Because you're going to have to go on a game show to afford the thing.
Yeah. So at this point, like really the only one left is PlayStation VR because it was announced this week, HoloLens Dev Kit, $3,000.
Holo monocles popping everywhere.
Let's put that in perspective. So, Oculus Rift development kit, $350, retails for $600.
Yeah, let's hope that ratio doesn't hold.
Yeah. If that is the case, I mean, this thing will cost $5,000 or $6,000.
Yeah, I'm thinking no.
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 I'm not doing it. There's no way. I mean, I don't know who this is made for. I mean, apparently people who have homes like this, like, like $3,000 for the dev kit. The dev kit comes with...
But you get a flat screen TV everywhere there's a wall.
Yeah.
It's like 5 flat screen TVs.
It's like having 1 million flat screen TVs that it can travel with you wherever you go.
That's a bargain.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I don't even know what to say about it. Like... $3,000 for the dev kit. That's just insane.
And it doesn't look like this. Like the viewing like arc is not that. I mean, what you're seeing in that video, there's no way. It's like it's.
This is like the debut trailer for HoloLens we're seeing right here. Go to the other B-roll that we have loaded up on the TriCaster because in this you can actually kind of see the field of view. So it comes with 3 experiences. One of them is Young Conquer, which we're seeing right here, an augmented reality game where Conquer platforms around your living room and house, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I don't like Young Conquer. I think he looks stupid. I think they murdered the IP.
Well, I want to know, what if, like, over the course of platforming through your house, the things happen to him that turn him into the bitter old drunken Conquer?
That would be awesome.
Maybe the reason he's bitter old drunken Conquer is because he had to spend so much time with us.
How funny would it be if he was able to detect a beer bottle?
And he gets drunk for the first time.
And he gets drunk and he transforms into the old Conquer. But look, this is all augmented reality, but it's pretty freaking cool augmented reality. Like, here he's platforming on the side of a wall, like...
Yeah.
And he takes into account, like, all the objects. So he for instance, he knew it was a couch. So he knew he could bounce on the couch because it was springy. So it's like intelligent AR that recognizes the environment and then changes behavior based upon that environment.
Mm. I mean, it's cool tech. I mean, clearly it's not primarily for gaming. I mean, they're trying to sell this as more of a lifestyle tech thing.
Yeah.
Who knows what the cost would be? I mean, it reminds me of when, you know, the Time magazine guy guessed it was like $350, and the Hololens developer was like, "Yeah, see you later, dude." Like, it was like, "Thank you for your time, son." It was like, oh, that means there's a lot more than that. So I mean, you're trying to sell it as a kind of a luxury AR device in the same realm as Google Glass.
And we all know how that
turned out.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, someone's going to hit on this tech at some point. You would think, because
feels like it might be a long ways away.
Yeah, it may not be this one. And again, HoloLens can sit in the drawer for a long time, like, you know, until the time is right. The time doesn't seem to be financially particularly right now. But again, you know, boys and their toys. You can probably sell 15K.
Yeah,
of them
maybe
for about 15K. I don't know. No, but I'm sure you can get an audience of, like, you know, high. But it's, again, you need people designing stuff for this and making stuff, putting apps out and putting that kind of stuff out. And if it stops being useful in that regard, what's the point?
Yeah. I can't honestly see anybody who would want to buy this. Like, I could see maybe educational institutions buying it, like universities, just so they have something to blow their budget on, and so their students can be like, "Oh my God, our school's awesome. They have these crazy things that we put on to learn with." But, like,
that's a lot, though. I mean, and you're in, like, Steve Jobs' next territory with his $13,000 learning computer thing for schools. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. And, like, Minecraft, I'm sure, is what they're going to try to sell as, like, the killer app for it. Mm-hmm. The other two experiences, I don't know if you can find the B-roll for it or not. One of them is actually kind of cool. There's a crime drama adventure game called Fragments. And the first shot that they show is the guy with the HoloLens sitting on a couch, and, like, a character from the game is sitting on the couch next to him. That's pretty freaky to me.
The way he, like, turns and it's just there.
The person sitting on the couch with him, like, sitting on his couch, the system has the ability to scan the environment that you're in, and then again have, like, those characters, like, dynamically interact with it. So this character from this crime drama game figures out you have a couch in your living room and comes over and sits down on the damn couch and, like, starts talking to you on your couch. Like, that to me is pretty freaking crazy, man. Mm-hmm. Like,
I don't know, it's just like all of this is really cool looking and very future-y and very, you know, Total Recall-y, you know, Minority Report style stuff. But, like, I also saw the original videos for the Kinect, and that ain't what the Kinect was like.
You're right.
You know, I mean,
right.
Here's
what I was talking about. Look at this. Isn't that freaky, dude? That flips me out.
Of course, he can only see, like, a tiny sliver of that at one time because the viewing angle is not.
Well, I think some of these videos, though, like, they do kind of show, like, they shade the side of the videos to kind of show you. The last one we had up had like, kind of a bright middle. The Conquer video has, like, a bright center that shows you, like, how far he can go before you lose the line of sight. Yeah, but, I mean, this is crazy, dude. How people come into your, like, virtual people come into, like, your house and start, like, talking to you and shit, like... Well, I mean, that's neat, but, like, I guess my question is, like, it seems like is he using, like, a VR headset there for that? Is that like because he has, like, the big glasses thing on for that? No, it's just the HoloLens. Just the HoloLens? Yeah.
like the limited viewing angle on that scene is a killer to me. I just don't see how that's going to work in terms of an immersion. Like, it doesn't seem like very useful as a gaming device to me.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look straight ahead. I mean, if you start looking out the side of your eyes,
but it's just
the
constant
illusion is
immersion
broken.
breaking. It seems like more useful as like like that one video shows the woman walking through the office and like she's talking to a guy, in a video conference, and her email's popping up over here and stuff. I mean, that seems like a more useful thing. It just seems like it's a very limited toy kind of thing for a gaming idea. Like, it just feels like VR. I mean, AR is a more interesting thing in terms of how it interacts with your environment, but like the VR seems like it's going to be less of
here's the trippy,
less of a one-off, like, oh, this is an app I screw around with on my phone and then I'm done.
But see, there is a different feeling though with AR and VR, and it's that you're mixing the fantastical with the mundane, and the mundane is your living room or your kitchen. And it's like, what's there, how things are supposed to operate, who may or may not show up there. So to see your couch or your living room or your kitchen and just have these other people or things in there that shouldn't be there, that's where it's different from VR. Because VR, you get submersed into this world where you do expect weird things to happen, you do expect fantastical things to be there. But mixing like the real world with this stuff gives AR a different angle. Whether you like it better or whatever, it's going to be up to everyone to kind of decide that. But I do think that there is value in AR outside of what you're getting with VR. And I think these demos that are releasing with HoloLens demonstrate that. Like, just the novelty of having, is it better to be in the Minecraft world, or is it better to have the whole Minecraft world on your coffee table?
I'd love to have the whole Minecraft world on my coffee table, but I need it to be more than 30 degrees of my viewing angle.
Right.
Like the limited viewing angle is the killer to me in that regard. I can't get past that. Because I've seen, when you put it on and you look at the Minecraft thing, it's this little, it's basically like a sliver of your viewing. Like, it's not what it looks like in those videos, and it's not sufficient. You can see in the Conquer
video how the characters were going out of the field of view.
Right, and I like because when you say, oh, it's eerie that this person's sitting on my couch, what I think was eerie is that I look over and I don't see half of them.
Yeah.
Like that breaks it completely for me. Like that, because it's AR is interesting to me if you can encompass more of my field of view. Or if you can make it more of like I think Google Glass was kind of not necessarily the right idea, but it was more of a business sort of, taking the phone out of your pocket and putting all that information in front of you on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Like, that is an interesting use. I think that's where AR is going to really take off, is having everything sort of, reality is augmented by having everything you need to see, know, interact with, or do right in front of you. Whereas like making a gaming experience out of it is going to be a tougher prospect for me, because I really love the idea of having Conquer crawling over my furniture and doing all this, but if it only works in this tiny little range of motion, if I even move my head a little bit, it's off. Like, that breaks it.
I definitely hear you, and I would agree with that as well. Like, it's not.
Might be a physical limit. I mean, I don't know if it's even possible to make it better than what they got.
I don't know either. And look, AR is never going to be as immersive as VR. Mm-hmm. It'll never even be as immersive as just playing a normal video game, I don't think. But I think it does have a higher opportunity to startle and shock and just create weird feelings. I don't know. It's like
if you could do, I would be interested in like a game where like they use the HoloLens as like a ghost scanner, kind of like a Fatal Frame sort of thing, where like if you it's like you have to have it at a right angle because like it has to it only works in this amount.
Gamify its lack of vision is what I'm saying.
Exactly, and because if like all of a sudden you look down the hallway and there's a fucking monster down your hall, because like you can only see it when it's in the little reticle that they put, because you can put like heads up stuff on this thing, and okay, you make it the reticle, you make it this is your field of view for this ghost viewer, and you have to look and see, and like only when you can see them, it's like Fatal Frame, but only when you can see them can you activate whatever you do to stop them or capture them or whatever. That could be a really interesting way to do things, and it could also happen anywhere.
Right. That's the other advantage of AR, is that you're not confined like with Vive to a room.
Right.
It's not like
this could happen on the street while you're getting a Subway sandwich and you look like a crazy person trying to fend off a demon. It'd be great.
That's what's cool. That's what's cool about HoloLens, is that no matter where you are, it's constantly surveying your environment, and it knows where everything is, and it knows where a wall is, and it knows it can put something behind that wall so that when you come around the corner, it's there, and you're like, whoa, like...
Unless I'm looking too far up.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Like, see, that's where it runs into... I mean, I'm sure there'll be ways around it, but it feels like such a limitation that it's hard for me to look at this and think of it as a gaming device. I don't think the people making it think of it as one either.
No, I don't think they are. I think that's what they think.
That's just one of the uses.
Well, I also think that they probably believe that's how, if it ever does get mass market penetration, that's how it's going to happen, through a game. It's not going to happen through learning or whatever. Like, look, they're going to sell tons of these to universities and schools and, private high schools or whatever. I don't ever see this becoming like a mass... well, I wouldn't say ever. But in the immediate future, I do not see this becoming like a mass consumer product. And
I think eventually this kind of thing is what our phones will be. I think this will be what people have. I mean, but again, I think this is ahead of its time. And being ahead of your time is not always a good thing.
Shows that.
Yeah.
$3,000. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's more expensive when... I don't even know if it'll be sold at retail, to be honest with you.
Maybe not.
Like, it may just be a special order thing, or maybe you can only buy them at Microsoft stores or something. Or
and I'm sure there's like really interesting like research uses for them. I mean, I'm sure there must be more professional. I mean, I think it's probably more useful as a professional tool in a lot of ways than a mass entertainment device. I don't think the tech's there for that yet.
Yep. So it's coming out. The dev kits are being released mid-April, I believe it is. I think pre-orders for them have maybe already started. Look, if you're a sifter and you're going to get one, let's make you a correspondent, because we're not going to buy one. And I'm being serious. Like, if somebody on Sifted gets a HoloLens and...
or write some columns about your experience with it.
Write some columns or do some videos. We could work something out with one of you guys. We're certainly not going to buy it. Certainly not at $3,000. So we'll see. But I don't know. I don't know how to, like, really classify how I feel about it, because I'm really excited about certain parts of it, and other parts of it are, like, huge downers. So...
My main thing is it kind of makes me sad, because it just reminds me of how long it's going to be before something really functional in that regard becomes a real thing. Because Google Glass may not have like worked, but I'll tell you, like Jeremy Hoffman, who was a game journalist for so long.
No, he used to wear it to work.
He used to wear it to work. He had it. He wore it all the time. Wore it to all the events. Wore it to E3. And the first time I ever used it was when he let me see like a video he took on the floor. We went to the Figueroa Hotel, and he's like, check it out, and he put it on. I put it on, and he hit the thing for it to play, and it played as I looked around and saw the thing, and he's like, there it is, and I was like, what's the thing? He's like, it's the Google Glass smile, and I wasn't even real. I had this giant stupid grin on my face looking at this thing. He's like, everyone does it. Everyone looks at like 2 seconds in, you get this big sloppy grin on your face because you've just seen what this is going to be. And he's right. It was
VR's like that too, though.
Oh yeah, VR.
Anyone who puts a VR helmet on for the first time, they just smile.
Yeah.
Or their mouth just hangs open.
Or you make that big frowny face like that guy in that Zuckerberg photo. I'm going to guess he'd done VR before.
Right,
This is old hat. But when you first put that on,
you
like,
cannot keep from smiling.
No, and you see that. I mean, when I waited in line the first time was when it was the first original. That wasn't even HD. It was the original Oculus dev kit for Eve Valkyrie at E3. And people would sit like 4 at a time. You'd sit in there and you'd play the thing and you'd leave. And you watch these guys playing, and their mouths are just these huge grins on their face because they're seeing these things that you just imagined up until now.
Yeah, dreamed of.
Yeah.
I mean, look, HoloLens has a lot of that too.
It absolutely has a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that technology whenever it comes to real fruition, but
at a reasonable price.
At a reasonable price. Yeah. But this doesn't.
It's like the graphics has HoloBenz. It's like right now it's a Mercedes-Benz. When it becomes a Ford Escort.
or I don't know, maybe at least like a Beamer.
Yeah, exactly.
Something, give me something in a $50,000 range.
Yeah, maybe that's a little more manageable. So, all right, that's it for the Big Six. Now we're on to our trailer of the week. It was a week for trailers, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's lots of really good gameplay this week. A lot of new Dark Souls gameplay. Dark Souls 3 came out this week. So yeah,
we're not going to make you watch that because people are going on spoiler lockdown.
Yeah, some of the footage that they put out, lots of boss fights.
A lot of boss fights.
Really surprised that Bandai Namco. I'm finally to the point in my life where I say Bandai Namco instead of Namco Bandai.
Never.
Yeah, they're really letting the publications run free with that game from that event. I was really surprised by that. But
Bandai Namco don't care.
Yeah.
They're like honey badgers. The honey badgers are publishers. They don't care.
So there's lots of great gameplay. Not a ton of trailers this week, but one trailer that did come out, the launch trailer for The Division, a week before the game comes out. That's really rare. You put out your launch trailer a week ahead of time. Mm-hmm. I think this trailer is great, by the way. It shows off a ton of stuff. Having played it several times and played the beta, I had no idea that a lot of this stuff existed in the game. I don't know if they're showing off stuff for the first time, or I just haven't read enough articles closely enough. But this trailer has a bunch of stuff in it I didn't even know was in The Division. Before we head to that, though, get your questions in now. That way we can get through them. You guys never do it, by the way. You watch a trailer with your jaws hanging open, and then you ask the questions after the trailer's over. So try to send a question now while we're watching the trailer. This is the launch trailer for Tom Clancy's The Division.
I trained for a scenario like this my entire life. But it's worse than anything we could have imagined. We don't have much intel, and we don't have the luxury of failure. Not with Manhattan under lockdown and Brooklyn on the brink. People like me and you, we're what's left to hold the line.
Every criminal group that we've been dealing with is controlling most of these neighborhoods. Taking whatever they want, killing whoever they want, because we got nobody to stop them. Burn them! An area this size, this many bad guys, I just don't like the idea of throwing you to the wolves.
Captain, we are the wolves. These are my people. This is my city. We're taking it back.
All right, so there it is, the launch trailer for The Division. You guys did better. There's a couple questions. Also, our TriCaster operator said he was checking chat earlier, and you guys picked up on a guitar being played nearby. So our studio is next to another studio where there's a person who gives guitar and voice lessons. And for some reason, you guys have never heard it until now, but almost every time we record the show, either someone will be singing next door, or they'll be playing the guitar.
Or there's sometimes like acting lessons.
Yeah, and those are crazy.
Like crowds of people out like crying loudly
Sometimes
in like
we'll walk
fashion,
out of our studio, and there'll be like people right outside the door fake crying.
Like rehearsing scenes with each other and like screaming like old married couples. It's crazy.
It is crazy. So yeah, you weren't just hearing things. There was a guitar being played.
That's what happens when you rent studio space in Los Angeles, folks.
All right, let's see if we can get to some questions here from you guys. I see a lot of you guys are talking about using VR for porn. That sounds great.
They're not the only ones.
Here's one from Ahab GT. From what you said about the NX, they're just scrolling so fast. Sounds like an HD portable gaming device, like a Super Vita, that can also stream to your TV when you're home. If that's the case, I think it's okay as hardware is only comparable to an Xbox One, considering how underpowered the 3DS is. Your thoughts? So it's basically saying, is a handheld Xbox One good enough?
Good enough for what?
It's good enough for a handheld.
Yeah.
It's not good enough for my TV.
No.
So no, it's not good enough.
I guess not. I would never really want that in the first place.
No, I mean, for a handheld, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't play handhelds as much as I used to.
No,
and the
really.
funny part about handhelds is I mostly play them at home anyway.
Right.
Like, I don't really ride the train anymore. I don't really take the bus anymore.
Well, I went up to San Francisco last week and I brought my 3DS and I played Fire Emblem and like
for an hour.
For a while, you know. I like the 3D. Here's the thing, you know, if you want to talk about why the 3DS comes with me and the Vita doesn't, because the 3DS closes.
Yeah.
Whereas the Vita is just like, here's the screen, feel free to scratch me, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not into that. And but in general, I just don't.
when I lived in the Bay Area, I played my handhelds a lot because
There's a lot more public transit.
I also lived in the East Bay for most of the time I was there, and so I took a bus across the Bay Bridge to work every day, and that's like a 2-hour process each way. By the time you like sit at the bus stop, wait for the bus to come, ride the bus, get into the city, get to the bus station, get off, like I had a lot of time to play games. In fact, I would end up like reviewing games like in a week just from the time I spent playing on the bus, but in LA, like, everybody drives everywhere. So since I've lived here, like, most of my handheld gaming is done on the couch where I could play a console. So,
yeah. I did, however, get tons of street passes in the LAX terminal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Lots.
People got them hidden in their bags.
30 or so.
Wow,
so,
that's
yeah,
good.
People traveling with their 3DS, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, I would say Xbox One, not good enough for the home console experience, plenty good enough for handheld.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if that's what you want. I mean, I think the handheld market is basically over.
Yeah, it sure seems that way.
Phones killed it.
Nintendo may give it one more stab, though.
Yeah, well, we'll see how much of a stab they want to keep giving it after Pokemon Go starts pouring gold into their coffers.
Let's see. Darmist57 is asking about Black Desert Online. I still haven't played Black Desert Online.
Neither have I, although I am interested.
I did get into the beta just like a couple days ago, but I've been playing other stuff like Superhot and haven't had a chance to go and play it yet. So maybe next week we can give you some impressions if you want to ask the question again.
I'm going to try to play it this weekend some when it comes, because it's out on Friday, right?
Yeah. Dyson XP, what is your rank in League of Legends? I never play ranked. I've literally played 3 ranked games in League of Legends. I'm level 30, though. Like, I've been level 30 for forever. But I don't play ranked because the people who play ranked are jerks. That's really what it comes down to. Even in normal games, people are jerks. But when you're playing ranked and, like, there's actually something on the line, like, I just can't tolerate it. I don't care enough. I'm not that serious about it. Like, look, I want to win. And if I'm on a team where my players don't know what they're doing, like, I turn into the coach and I'm trying to, like, help them get better at the game. But I don't get angry with people and I'm not toxic. And, like, when you start playing ranked games, that's when you really get around, like, the toxic players because they have something on the line. Like, they care if they're, like, bronze or silver or platinum or whatever. I don't care about any of that. Like, I've literally played, like, 4 ranked games. So I'm level 30. I got the ribbon for Teemo and Tristana and Yi and a couple others, but that's it. I just play it for fun. I really enjoy it.
All of that was like listening to a different language.
Yeah.
I have no idea what any of that means.
Yeah, that's the way League and MOBAs are, unfortunately. Like, if you don't play it, you really don't know what the heck's going on. Do you have a question you pulled up, Matt?
Ian Esquire wants to ask, when is Sifted's first birthday, and what has been the most surprising thing to come out of the site for you so far?
Oh, boy. Sifted's first birthday will be, I believe it was May 25th that it launched. I believe. I'll have to check on that, but I think it was either 25th, 26th, or 27th. And you can actually, one thing that's been changed, if you look at, like, your profile in the forums. So if you post in the forums and it has your avatar, it'll have like the date that you joined Sifted underneath your name now, which is something that was just kind of stealth added over the last week, which is cool. So we can see people who like joined up on day 1, people who just showed up. So the question was, what's the biggest surprise of things that have happened with Sifted? Mm-hmm. The community is the biggest surprise, without a doubt. The whole idea was kind of a dream. I got so tired of toxic communities online. I was like, well, maybe if we charge people and they have some vested interest in the site, it'll keep the trolling down. And it has worked way better than I ever thought it would. Like, the people on Sifted are freaking awesome. Like, you guys are the shit. There's really no other way to put it. Like, I've never seen any website online with such civil discourse. Like, even when people get passionate and excited, which is what we want people to be passionate about games, everybody's respectful. Like, nobody is, I mean, there's been, like, 2 people that have been jerks. And here's the crazy part about it, like, literally 2, by the way. Like, that's it. Like, 2 people that, like, I would have banned from the site, total, out of the thousands and thousands of people that have been on Sifted. 2 total. And the crazy part was, these 2 people felt so out of place that they just quit the site. And they weren't like, they didn't even want their money back. That's the crazy part. They're like, yep, you were a straight shooter. You told me this is the way it was going to be, and this is the way it is. and I don't fit in here. Because they were basically jerks. And, like, they realized that it's like when you get a splinter in your finger, and it hurts for a little while, but eventually, like, your body naturally forces the splinter out of your skin. And one day you realize it's just gone. Well, that's what happened with those two people. Like, they were the splinter in Sifted's thumb, and they just felt so out of place. They're like, why is nobody else like me? Why is nobody angry? Why is nobody, like, basically trolling other people or flaming people? And after they did it a couple times and people were just like, dude, what are you doing? We don't do that here. They felt so out of place that, like, they sent me emails. They're like, I'm leaving. I don't like this place because people are basically too nice. That's really, like, what they said. They're like, at the same time, like, you can keep my money. Like, I'm totally cool. I read the terms of service, and you said that's the way it was going to be, and that's the way it turned out to be. So that's the shocker. I mean, it's hard. I can't find any other place like it online. Like, it really has just become, like, this game utopia for people who really are passionate about games but aren't jerks. I think the recent tagline that we've started using a little bit is like ad-free, junk-free, punk-free. That's really Sifted in a nutshell. So that would be the biggest surprise. And the other surprise I would say is the lack of willingness for people to pay $10. I mean, literally, people act like $10 is going to, like, keep them from retiring. Like, we only put the $10 in there to keep the community the way it is, to just provide this paper-thin barrier of entry. I'm like, look, if you work at McDonald's, you'll make $10 in an hour. But some people act like it's like $1 million. And so that's been a surprising thing. Like, literally, I think it's like 98.7% of our subscribers are premium. Like, we have, like, no basic subscribers. Like, you'll notice it because they have the silver plate, and you hardly ever see them. Like, every once in a blue moon, one of our basic subscribers will post something, and you're like, oh my god, there's a basic person. Like,
that's so basic.
Exactly. So that's been surprising to me, is it, like, the way people look at $10 like it's the last dollar they have, I guess. Like, but it's also by design. Like, a lot of those people who get angry,
I'll spend that much on a lunch.
I know,
like,
I know. And to join a community that you will get literally, like, hundreds or thousands of hours of enjoyment out of in a year's time, it's like, it's not worth $10. Like, that's been the shocking part. Like, I honestly thought that we would just have, like, tens of thousands of basic subscribers and, like, maybe a quarter of that number be premium subscribers. And it has been the exact opposite by a country mile. So those are the two things I would say that have been the most surprising.
Grenade Artist wants to know if I'll watch Hitman Agent 47 with him this weekend. If I watch Hitman Agent 47 with you, you have to see Batman vs. Superman in the theater. This is an ongoing argument between me and him over the last couple weeks. I know him already. And yes, you will see Batman vs. Superman in the theater if I watch that stupid movie with you.
Yep. Oh, man, there's so many questions. You guys are just loading it up. Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. Let's see. I guess I just need to pick one. I see another question here about the GT crew. They're still in a holding pattern. They're still figuring out what they're doing. I am in touch with them. I am in touch with Brandon. They just have a lot of sorting, reckoning. They just haven't figured it out yet, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, none of them have. They don't know what they're going to do. They don't know if they want to go work somewhere else. It's still kind of up in the air. So I see people giving me crap for thinking Batman versus Superman looks stupid.
Yeah. I see Gino Mike says, Matt, Spotlight, not Big Short, won Oscars. I've been saying Spotlight's going to win the Oscars for the Best Picture Oscar for months and months and months.
Yeah.
Called it.
Also, Ex Machina, one of my favorite movies.
I did not see that coming for the special effects award, and I'm okay with that because they did some great stuff in that movie.
I love that movie.
Wise. There's some cool stuff in there that I have never seen before.
That was my movie of the year. I knew it wouldn't win because it's too weird, but... let's see. Any chance you will make game evals into video reviews? That's from M. Griley. Well, I guess one thing I would say is when we talk about games here on GameFace, you're basically getting like a 45-minute video review. It's not specific to... we're not showing the exact footage of what we're talking about when we're talking about the games, but we are showing you footage of the games while talking about the games. So those are pretty big video reviews, kind of organically on their own. But If you go back and look, we have done a couple video reviews already. If you go and look on the premium content page, there's a few there. We wanted to do more, but it has proven to be so expensive and time-consuming to do. And I knew it. I knew it was going to be. I've been doing video reviews for 12 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I knew how time-consuming and expensive it was. But I guess the way we're looking at it is we have a limited amount of budget, so we're trying to spend the money the best way possible. And so it's important for us to do the game evals so that you guys see our opinion and you know our opinion on a game to help you guys buy the game. And then we'll follow up with that with discussion on GameFace. But is it smarter for me to use that money to get new people to work on the site or to get a new show, or is it more important to do a video review, which is kind of redundant with a lot of the other content that we're doing? So I'm not saying we're not doing any more video reviews. I'm just trying to give you an explanation for why we don't do more than we do currently. So
Nolan Elric asks, why is the Bay Area so important to the games industry?
Oh. So it's just where all the companies are.
Yeah, well, my answer would be...
Silicon Valley's right there.
And maybe he's asking why all the companies are. I would say the answer to that is because that's where it started.
Yeah.
Because the first coin-op game was... Pong was first taken out to Andy Capp's in... where was that? Was that in Menlo Park, Santa Clara, around there somewhere? And was jammed with quarters within a day. And so everything kind of, that industry, the coin-op industry started there, and that's just sort of where it all ballooned out from. And I think that's just where everything is now.
California in general.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where, like, Atari started. I mean, if we always talk...
Bushnell was up there. Everybody was up there.
We always call
Apple.
Japan the cradle of video games. Well, if there's a cradle of video games in the United States, it's California.
Yeah.
And that's where you're right. It's
Japan was more the savior of video games.
Yeah.
When after the crash, they came in and revolutionized it again.
Yeah. Well, they also made it a part of
there.
their culture,
Right.
which is, I still would say video games still in America have not gotten to that place where it's just a part of culture like it is in Japan.
A couple of them have, I think, but not as a medium.
I'm not saying like particular games. I'm saying like gaming. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just an accepted part of life in Japan. I still feel like there's a little bit, it's getting better, but I still feel like there's a little bit of a stigma towards gaming.
I think that's gone if you're under 10 right now.
Oh, yeah,
I think that whole
but
generation...
like people our age.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when people find out that I play games, they're just, first of all, they're like, wow, like, how did you do that? Like, how did you get that job? Or how did you launch your website? They're, like, taken aback by it. But then they're like, you still like playing games at your age? And they'll be like, oh, I used to play, like, Space Invaders, and you get the same story.
Yeah, you're like, well, they've
improved
a bit.
Right, they're like, I really like Miss Pac-Man when I was 12. You know, it's like that kind of condescending, like, they're trying to say that they can relate to you while also trying to tell you at the same time that you're, like, too old to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah, if someone does that to me, I just start talking to them about video games really in depth until they go away. That's real. I mean,
I'm sure we've all dealt with the condescending jerk who tries to make you feel stupid for playing video games. I don't even care, honestly. I'm at the point in my life where I really don't care what anybody thinks of me. So
you can also just ask them what their job is.
Yeah.
And, like, talk about how, like, your job's stupid, too. Like, so you can do that with anything. You can do that with literally anything.
Yeah.
Someone will always look down on you for whatever you like to do. It doesn't matter what you do.
Lots of mixed opinions on Ex Machina in here. Some people are loving it. Some people are like, it's too weird. Which it
was pretty weird.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But, like, it's an interesting, it's an interesting take on the material. And, like, again, you won visual effects, and there's some amazing visual effects in that movie.
Yep. Let's see. Here's one from Dragon Slayer 91. What do you think of Don't Nod making Vampire a mix between a combat and story game? Should they stick with what they're good at and just focus on story? No, I don't think any studio should ever just stick at what they're good at. If they want to grow as a studio, they should try new things. And yeah, Vampire is a huge departure from Life is Strange, without a doubt. It's not just the gameplay, though. It's just everything, the setting and the tone.
I appreciate a developer doesn't lock themselves into one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of times when developers burn out, they burn out because they've been pigeonholed into doing this one type of game over and over again.
One of the reasons I'm so interested in Horizon Zero Dawn is because these poor Guerrilla guys have been forced to make Killzone games for like a decade, and now they're finally being freed.
Yeah. So no, I'm totally cool with Don't. I think Vampire looks awesome. What I've seen of it so far and what they've shared of it. So I'm really excited for that game. Let's see. We got any more? Let's take two more if we got them. Are you winning? I don't even know what that means.
I don't know.
Winning what? What are your thoughts on Stardew Valley from Gurzilla? I have not played it. Have you?
I've seen it, watched some videos. It's Harvest Moon.
Yeah. It's like number 2 on Steam right now or something?
Yeah.
It's doing really well.
Doing really well. It's almost like people liked Harvest Moon or something. Maybe you should make another Harvest Moon.
I think they are.
Yeah. Well, there was one from a couple years ago on the 3DS. I actually got that on spur of the moment for my niece, my 7-year-old niece, and I brought it to her. I didn't know if she'd like it. She was playing Tomodachi Life, and I'm like, maybe if you had something where you actually do something in it, like you can play it. She played it like 3 hours later. Come down to dinner. It was around when I was visiting, and come down to dinner, and I'm like, what do you think about Harvest Moon? And she goes, it's awesome. I was like, oh, we got a Harvest Moon fan here. Like she thought it was the greatest thing. The greatest thing. It's always fun to see somebody like react that way to like one of those long running series. And then I had to explain to her that there was a Super Nintendo version, and she was like, whoa, like blew her mind. Blew her mind at the series like 20 years old. Like had no idea.
Here's a question from Login Lost. Any news on pricing for Sifted? So I guess one thing I can tell you right now is that eventually the subscription cost for Sifted is going to go up. $30 was not enough. And we did math and tried to do math.
Math is hard.
Math was not our friend when we decided to set the $30 price for Sifted.
If we could do math, we wouldn't be doing video games.
Yeah. And I think more than anything, we want to charge money because we want to make the site more than it is right now. Basically, at the $30 price point, the content that we're creating is pretty much all we can afford to create, I guess is the best way to put it. And we want to do more content. And you guys want more content. So yeah, the price is going to go up. Don't know exactly when. Definitely before the anniversary, I'll say. So any of you guys who subscribed on day one, when you resubscribe, it will cost more. I'm not even going to hint yet at what it's going to be or anything like that because that still is yet to be determined. I just know that for what I want Sifted to become, it's not going to work on $30 a year. We underestimated how much bandwidth was going to cost and several other things. There's just so many things that pop up when you start a company that you don't think about, like just paying for insurance for your location every year, every month, just taxes and stuff like California just beats up LLCs with taxes and stuff like that. So there's just little things like that that add up. It's like, oh, we didn't realize that, but then there's like eventually like 10 other things that you didn't realize either, and it just all starts to add up, particularly when you're doing stuff on a monthly basis. So the cost is going to go up. Feel free in the comments to share like what you guys would be cool with as far as pricing is concerned. Look, we're not talking about going to like $100 a year or anything like that. Like we're not going to just totally like blow out the $30 price that we've been charging so far. So it'll be reasonable, I guess is the best way to put it. But we're still working on that. But yeah, the price will go up. Definitely for people who joined right at the beginning. Whenever they go to re-up for the next year, it'll be more. But yeah, no definitive cost yet. So, and again, feel free to share like what you're thinking in the comments. You got anything else? Did you see anything, Matt?
No. Nolan Elric wants me to mention Starflight, so Starflight. 3 shows in a row with a Starflight reference.
Well, somebody missed the beginning of the show. Gino Mike, who we already answered one of his questions. Any thoughts on the rumor for the potential upgrade for Xbox One? That was topic number 1 of the Big Six. You're going to have to watch that on the archive on Sifted. So, all right, I think that's it, folks. As usual, great questions. Thanks for sending them in. Hopefully we got to as many of them as we could. We could sit here probably forever answering questions, but try to get to as many as we can. So we'll be back next Wednesday, hopefully with tales to tell about The Division.
The Division.
Yeah. Or not.
I don't know.
Who knows when they send the code? Like, I'm a little nervous about it now. They could send it just like on Tuesday morning, and we have like 1 day to play it before we do the show.
Well, I got it pre-ordered, so I'll play it one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, we're both going to play it, definitely. So it's just a matter of whether we'll be able to discuss it in depth next week or
I'm
it'll
going
be
to
the
try
week
to play
after.
some Black Desert over the weekend, so maybe we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. And actually, I'm on the beta too. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not a big MMO guy.
Neither am I, but like I've said, I
this
think I've
game
said
is
before,
tickling my fancy a little bit, though.
Yeah, well, like I've said, some people I think will remember I've said before, like when an MMO gives me like combat like Streets of Rage, like call me, and this one's trying to do something like that, so like you've got my attention. Also, a robust fishing simulator will always get my attention when one of these. Apparently, you can just sit there and fish as much as you want, and there are fishing leaderboards. There are leaderboards for fishing and for like cow milking and for like any little thing you want to do in the game. Like your character can get really, really good at it, no matter how action oriented or how completely stupidly mundane. And that is something that gets my attention. I appreciate that. I don't know if I'll use a lot of it. I don't know if I'm going to go run around like milking cows all across the land until I level 100 cow milking. But
level up those forearm muscles.
Yeah, it's no joke. Be good. Oh, it'd be good to combine that with an archery character. That's the same muscle group there.
All right, people. That's it. That's GameFace episode 39. Next week, episode 40. These 10s just keep rolling on by. 50, maybe we have to do something special for 50.
Like, I'll sit there and you sit here?
We'll do that. Maybe we change something about the show. Maybe we do giveaway. Well, I don't know. We'll try to figure something out. 50 is a big deal. So
I got a bunch of Humble Bundle Steam codes floating around I'm never going to use. We could do that.
I have a bunch of codes lying around, too. Maybe we do some kind of a thing for 50 where we have... We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll find something cool to do. Anyway... Everybody, thank you for tuning in, especially those people in Europe. As always, I saw tweets before we kicked off the show that a lot of you guys are going to stay up for it. We appreciate it. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for making the show feel live. It's what really makes it exciting to come and sit here and do this with you guys. So, everybody have a great night, morning, whatever it is. GameFace is up and out.